Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV podcast 526.
The Brewers are getting their ass kicked right now. Actually, the game's probably over. It just ended. They gave up like 5 in the 5th, and they were losing 8-5 to the Mets in the wild card. Unfortunate, but it's very typical of the Brewers in playoffs.
Why are they in the wild card? Because I thought just like a few weeks ago you were bragging about them whooping everybody and leading the division. Why is there?
Because even the division leader gets a wild card spot unless you're the best division leader in the National League.
Okay.
So you still have to play a wild card. It's baseball. It's weird. I don't know.
Well, I've got a little story to follow that up with. The one Brewer game I went to this year was against the Dodgers, and I think I know somebody that might have something to say about that. But it is, of course, the week right after we just watched the MVP Open by Maple Hill, by OTB, whatever it was. We had Steve Dodge on last week, talked about some of the changes and some of the things that were taking place out there. Exciting to see the weekend unfold the way it did this week. And congrats, of course, first and foremost, go to one Missy Gannon, taking things down in dramatic fashion. We'll talk more about her and her performance a little bit later. And right now, I think without further ado, we're going to get right to the man, the man of the hour, and our special guest. Of course, we're talking about the winner, MPO side, James Proctor. Yeah, buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Terry, how are you?
I'm good, but I am not having the week or the year that you're having. So your smile, it's great to see it all year long, but a little bigger and brighter even today, isn't it?
I haven't stopped smiling. It's been surreal.
Even into the pond, he comes out, he's still smiling. I mean, yeah.
That's the way it should be. So the number one burning question that I feel like everyone probably already has, and I don't think you've gotten to it yet, or maybe somebody's dug deep, but how much did you and your wife enjoy the Taylor Swift concert a few months ago?
10 out of 10. I mean, so we actually were fortunate enough to see her when she played at the 49ers Stadium last year. And we were in bleacher seats. And then getting to go in Germany during that Europe swing, we got floor seats, and she also added the Tortured Poets Department set. So it was the same concert, but with upgrades and a different vibe. And it was absolutely incredible.
Some people might think that's a weird open, but one of the things that I remember talking to you about or hearing from you over there in Europe this year was just your crazy schedule with obviously all the golf, but then it just rang so loud when you're like, yeah, but I'm leaving and then I'm going to the concert with my wife and then I'm coming back and then I'm not going to really have much time to practice. What 2 events was that in between, in fact?
That was right after European Open. We left Monday morning, flew to Barcelona. We were in Barcelona Monday, Tuesday, flew to Germany on Wednesday, saw her in Germany, and then Thursday morning I flew to Estonia and then got half a practice round in. We actually got rained out because of weather, so the last 6 holes I had to play kind of blind. But it was worth it.
I was saying, well worth it. And it was
on a brand new course nonetheless.
And they say it's easier to see Taylor Swift overseas than it is here in the US. Like it's easier to get tickets. It's actually sometimes cheaper to buy a flight and the tickets and see her than it is to see her in the U.S.
Yeah. I mean, we were already over there, so that math might check out. I don't know about from the U.S., but yeah, it was incredible.
All right. Well, that was a side note to this incredible year that you've had. Maybe not a side note. Maybe it's still a staple, and I can appreciate it. But this year, clearly, you're on another level, and the documentary and everyone that's known you, I think even myself in that video, more than once was talking about your unlimited potential. Everyone has seen it and know it and known about it. Has that been the difference of you not working full time and now taking disc golf on full time? Was that just truly the difference?
Yeah, I think, last year, I was in the mix a lot and I never came out with a win, but I think that experience, just collecting, learning from all of those events. And, this year hasn't been quite as consistent, but I've definitely felt more confident and more comfortable in those situations. And so, being able to show up the last day, twice now, Swedish Open and last week, and come out on top. I think, I don't know, like it's hard to pinpoint any specific times where I've learned a lesson or anything like that. But the start of this season was a little bit rocky, and it kind of really forced me to, the way I put it was, turn my weaknesses into strengths and really look at my game and where I was losing strokes and kind of take it up a notch for the second half of the year. So
what
fun.
specifically do you feel like were your challenge spots or your weaknesses? What were some of the things that you then had to hone in on, and then how did you address those?
I think the main thing, at least the first half of this year, is I was comparing myself to last year. And, last year I found myself in the top 10, I think more than half the events I played. And to start this season, I started, I think the first 3 events, I was like 23rd, 24th, and 28th or something. And I kept chasing those results. And I think I was overthinking and overanalyzing, and I kind of forgot to just go out there and play. And I think that's one of the reasons I found so much success last year is I had no expectations and I was just having fun on the disc golf course. And so, I kind of had to step back a little bit, quit comparing myself and my finishes to anybody or anyone else, and just go out there and play and have fun.
Did you have a heightened sense of expectation because you did take that leap where you thought, hey man, this is it. Now I am, full time. So now I should be able to, really make a charge every single weekend. Was that your own battle?
Yeah. I think that definitely had something to do with it, for sure. And I think, it's more fun when you're playing in the top 10, when you're in contention, you're on chase card, lead card, you have the galleries, you just feel like, it's sort of like an ego boost. And when you're on the 4th and 5th card and strokes matter, but you're not essentially playing for the win, it's not as much fun. And so I was chasing that high again. And I had to kind of just step away and realize that when I'm playing my best golf, it's when I'm not worried about results. It's when I'm enjoying myself and having fun. And so that, and then also really just take time to practice on. For me, it was a lot of approaches. I noticed that I was pretty good off the tee, but I was just not converting and not picking up the birdies. And so, I spent a lot of time stopping halfway down the fairway and just throwing sidearm and backhand approaches and really just trying to do whatever I could to turn my weaknesses into strengths is what I was telling myself.
Well, this is, I believe, your first time on SmashBoxx with us.
Yeah.
And so I want to introduce some of our viewers to you in general. You feel like you're kind of the new guy still. I know you've been around for 3 years on tour, but before that, you were going way back. A lot of us have known you since like 2010, 2011, when you were just a young kid. You played Worlds in 2011 and you cashed. You got like the second to last cash.
Uh-oh. That means.
Yep, Terry. I just looked.
Uh-oh.
That means he beat you, Terry, by about 5 strokes. Because you were like the first spot out of cash. No. Spot.
I cashed, but I didn't have to play during the semifinals.
You got the semis. You did not. So you had to play the extra round.
So you won like $9 more than me for an extra round of golf.
Exactly.
But so 2011, you come out, play the World Championships, you cash. Great way to kind of start. And then for a long time, to me at least, you were kind of known as the guy who played it felt like you were the one really good guy who played collegiates. Like, no, that guy's in collegiates and he's the one that's going to be good in pro. Like, collegiates always have some solid players, but you were really the breakout. Tell us a little bit about your collegiate experience.
Yeah, I mean, back then I was pretty much only playing the West Coast events and Worlds. And, I loved going to college. I loved that experience. Collegiates was super fun. I was like the one guy who was friends with all the pros. So I was the big shot. I remember hanging out in Macbeth's new trailer. We went to the Prodigy warehouse when it was in Georgia, so I was playing collegiates, but I had also, I had known a lot of the big time players for 4 or 5 years at that point. So I kind of got to run the show a little bit, so to speak. And yeah, collegiates was a good time. It was, 4 or 5 of my buddies, we would go play Tahoe all the time. And we went down to Monterey, qualified for collegiates, had to fundraise, do all that stuff to fly out from Nevada to stay over there for a week. And, I think my first year playing, I got kind of housed by the weather because there's the open course and the woods course. And we all had to play the open course, like in this crazy wind rainstorm, and everyone played really bad. And I think I ended up taking 5th or something. I climbed my way back. But the second year I was able to take it down, which was, it was cool, but it was also like I was expected to, so it's not like, not to take anything away from that, because it was still a huge accomplishment for me, and I was really proud of it. But, it was sort of like, being the highest rated player in the field by 25 points, you're kind of expected to do the job. So,
yeah, I mean,
that was a fun time for sure.
There's still some pressure going in as the favorite. We've seen it before in the past. And then you play regionally for quite a few years, and you decide to go on tour in 2022, like full time. Yes. That was the first year. And I think there were a lot of expectations from a lot of people, like, oh, finally, James is gonna, he's done with, the teaching or whatever he's doing, and now he's gonna play disc golf, because you had always been a pretty high rated player. And then you came out on tour and it didn't really go so well for you that first year. What was that experience like, and how did you deal with it?
It was frustrating because I had been used to, I think in 2015, my worst tour finish, I don't know how many events I played, but I remember just being able to get top 20. I could just show up and get top 20. I think I got 15th at Worlds and USDGC that year. And
14th, but yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. But yeah, so, and I played a couple events in 2018 after graduating college. And then, after the school year ended in 2022, some things were changing. We were talking about moving, and there was more money in the sport. So I decided to make the jump, and I played the second half of the season. And it didn't go that well. I think, I don't even remember what my best finish was, but it was frustrating. And I realized how good the competition was. I realized I couldn't just show up and get top 20 anymore. Like, I had to really get used to, I think, tour style courses. I had a decent forehand back then, but as soon as you add OB everywhere, I would lock up. I couldn't throw forehand. And so I really had to just get used to playing that style of golf where any mistake, especially when you're throwing out of bounds, it's an instant bogey. And, I think my main crux that season was my bogey rate and OB percentage. I lost a lot of confidence off the tee throwing distance drivers because I just felt like I couldn't keep them in bounds. And so I really had to kind of learn how to play tour style courses and how my game would fit in to be successful in those courses.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at that year, we get to the very next year, I think your best finish on tour was 21st.
Okay.
And then you had the major, you were 20th at the European Open, USDGC 15th. But
okay,
to go from that to the very next year, 2023, where, I don't want to say, I look at it a lot from a, just because of my nature, fantasy disc golf perspective. Like, okay, well, James came out, he's not, he's going to be whatever, a 5th round pick or something, we'll call it. Then you come out in 2023 and you light it up. Like,
yeah.
Did you ever consider not coming back in 2023? Was there a thought after the way 2022 was, or were you dedicated to so many years?
When my wife and I had the conversation about me stopping teaching and giving this a real shot, we kind of committed to 2 years. I wanted to give myself a chance to, learn the lessons and adapt to the tour and, reevaluate after 2 years. So, there was never, I don't remember having any doubts after that 2022 season. I just remember kind of being motivated to take it to the next step.
When you've been coming through all these years and you've had these successes, when you talk about like the collegiate nationals and so on and so forth, you've also, I don't know if dabbled is the right word. You've clearly been sponsored and committed by a couple of different companies. And my question is, how have you been weaving through those interactions, and what has that been like? because the time that I've known you, I've seen you have a few different supporters, and now you're in, I feel like, a really unique position. I mean, there's kind of your traditional sponsorships, and then there's where I think you are in terms of sponsored, but it's not, I don't know, as cookie cutter as a lot of other sponsorships probably are. So maybe if you could kind of just walk us through your support and then how and where you've landed and what you're doing now.
Yeah, being from NorCal, I was an Innova guy. Everyone around me through Innova, all I had was Innova. And so that was always like the main goal. And when I was in college, I think the first company to kind of reach out was Shoestrick and Prodigy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, yeah, let's do it. So I signed with Prodigy, I think in 2014. And then later on in college, after playing pretty well, Latitude offered to pay me. And back then, for me, I was only playing, a handful of events a year, and getting paid monthly sounded pretty good. So had a conversation with Dave Feldberg back at the San Diego Team Challenge one of those years. Signed with Latitude, stayed with them for a couple of years, and then when it was time to go on tour full time, I don't remember exactly when, but I wanted to go back to throwing Innova, and I could get on the champion team, and that provided a little bit more support. So I made that move. I was happy throwing Innova. I loved it. And then after the 2022 season, when I didn't have another income, and the champion team was great, but it wasn't going to be enough guaranteed money for me to really make disc golf work and be on tour. So I had some conversations. I ended up staying with Eric Oakley at USCGC, and he was already sponsored by ThoughtSpace and Infinite, and talking with those guys, and it's a unique situation because I at that time last year I had ThoughtSpace, Infinite, and Clash, so I was getting paid by 3 different companies, and so for them, they're not having to write the huge check. They're only paying for a third of me essentially, and so it's easier for them to kind of afford players, and for me, I was the sum of the 3 companies added up to enough to where I was able to support myself. So it was a unique situation for sure. And I'm very, very thankful that I did make that switch. I still, have so much love for Innova, and some of my favorite discs are 11-time Rocks and Destroyers, like, all the old Innova guys are. But at the same time, I don't want to go anywhere else. I'm super happy right now. My contracts are up after this year, but I'm looking to stay right where I'm at. I think it's a fun situation being able to throw the mixed bag. It's fun being a part of smaller teams, and it is unique. And there's a lot of players that have kind of asked me about, hey, do you really get to throw whatever you want? What does this look like? And yeah, I just feel very grateful to kind of have fallen into this situation, and I'm incredibly happy where I'm at. So yeah.
Well, don't go showing all your cards. You're not, I mean, you got to have a little bargaining chip here. I mean, no, but in all seriousness, could you expand? Because some of us, and I'll be the first to admit, I don't know, every mixed / open bag thrower kind of has a slightly different variation of what's quote unquote allowed. Joey Buckets, for instance, has to throw X amount of Castoplast molds, but then he can throw other certain molds, just as one example. What, if you can, share what a mixed bag allowance looks like to you? Because you also are you working with Alpha Discs as well?
Yeah, so Alpha's a smaller company out of Norway. Yep. They're just getting started, and I think honestly, I'd have to look at my contracts. I'm pretty sure they state I have to throw at least 1 mold from the company. So I have to have 1 TSA mold, 1 Infinite mold, 1 Alpha mold. The rest is up to me, is up to my discretion. And, I think Aaron puts it fantastically, the owner of ThoughtSpace. He says, like, I have the option to throw a rock or to throw a buzz or, whatever mid-range I want. But if I choose to put a Pathfinder in my bag, it says something about the Pathfinder, that the fact that I have the choice and I still want to bag this. And so that carries a lot of weight. And, yeah, and the beauty of a company like Infinite is, for example, I throw the Zone. but I can just tell people in the bag, this is what I'm throwing. Go buy a zone from Infinite, so that it kind of goes in that way of I can still support my company no matter what I'm throwing. But at the same time, like it does, I feel like, carry a little bit of weight that I can choose to throw whatever disc is made. And, here's what's in my bag. Here's what I am throwing. And it's been fun.
Do you think, with all, especially with your prior experiences with a few of the other manufacturers and then where you're at now, do you think more people will jump on to this model, and kind of in your path, or are we, or is the I don't want the standard, we'll say, the standard protocoler model of pretty much exclusive with one company? Do you feel like one model or another might become more popular?
It's really hard to say. It's a unique situation. I think the only thing I see growing is, players being sponsored by like OTB and Another Round and those wholesale companies, but not necessarily. I think Dot Space and Alpha are in unique situations because, one, they technically do have a complete lineup, but they're smaller companies. They can't afford to be spending, hundreds of $1,000s on players. So just being able to like kind of pay for a piece of them and still get the coverage and the promotion and the discs and all that is really beneficial for them. But so, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say, especially, the way this year has gone and with disc sales. I know companies are struggling. I know players are struggling. So, it's a tough time for smaller companies. I'm sure Discraft and Innova, others said they're doing just fine selling their buzzes and forces and destroyers and all of that. But, it's a tricky place for the smaller companies to like expand their team and to bring on more players because, they don't have the capital. So
yeah,
I'll be interested to see for sure.
Yeah, I think that's all part of it is, we have these staples that have been around for 20, 30, 40 years. And now you're seeing so much more new interest, and they want to break into the scene, but it's really tough to do because you need either the greatest disc in the world, and even if you have it, you got to get somebody throwing it so that it could be experienced as such. And so I can understand that it's really tough. Let's back into actual golf from this weekend, and let's just start with the hype and the conversation and the aura, the everything that is Maple Hill. We had Steve Dodge here last week, and whenever people talk about Maple Hill, as much as Green Mountain was also just praised the weekend before, most people will tell you the Maple Hill week is arguably the most fun or their favorite week of the year. What have been your experiences before even this year and the success you had? What have been your experiences leading into this year's event?
I think, it's just so unique. It's got, hole one throwing over the pond into a bunch of Christmas trees, hole, 11, just launching off the tee pad, throwing, wherever you want to. Hole 4 is unique. 5 is unique. Hole 8 with the 8 holes, hole 14 they added more bleachers there this year, I think. And then obviously hole 18 goes without saying, but to pack all of those, we can say signature holes into one course, it's just unheard of. And, it seems like it's becoming, this big giant party. There's music playing everywhere. You got the deck on hole 18, the bleachers on 8, 14, 18. It's just a crazy environment to be a part of. And, it's one of those that it feels like you just take highlights from all these different places and just put them into one course. And so it's super fun to play. It's super fun to throw the tee shots. It's super fun to, interact with the crowd, to just hear all the chanting and yelling and hype around the entire course. It's really special.
This is a unique course, and I got to watch some of the coverage, and you see players react differently to the crowd, whether it's on your hole or on another hole. In fact, I was watching Ezra Robinson on, I think it was hole 13.
Yeah.
He got, unofficially razzed by the crowd because they were cheering so loud on 14.
Yeah.
At any point, is it tough for you to focus out there, or are you able to kind of block all of that out? Because I'm sure we'll get into hole 18 and some of the things that you had said about that, but how do you react? Because it is so different than every other event.
I know going in that it's going to be that way. You know, there's going to be yelling. There's going to be porta potty doors slamming. There's going to be crowd everywhere. So you just have to know going in. You know, I know it was an adjustment for a lot of the Finns. You know, if you ever go to Europe, like, it's the most quiet, respectful crowd, and it's the opposite there. You know, the crowd's out there to hype you up. They're out there to get loud and rowdy, and you know, they're still respectful about it, but they're paying attention to their hole. And sometimes you got a hole behind them or to the side of them, and you just have to know it's going to happen. And, you know, for me, going into the event, I knew what to expect. I'd played it before. So I kind of had that mindset going in that, you know, it can be tough. And if you're not playing well, it can be extra tough to kind of block out that noise and to not let it frustrate you. Thankfully, you know, for me, I was playing pretty well, so it didn't bother me a whole lot, but I kind of knew going in to not, you know, when it's time to step up to the tee, that's your time to focus. When you're walking down the fairway, it's you just have to have fun with them.
Do you feel like, because the reception and therefore the opinions on it, I think, vary so drastically, do you feel like we're right about where it needs to be? You know, is there still 20% more wildness that can take place there? Like, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 being like the perfect amount, maybe where do you feel like that event and the madness is? Where do you feel like it is? If 10's the perfect amount, what are we at right now?
It's probably an 11. Like, it's
okay.
just it's
you like it.
It's so 10 being the max amount, I guess, is what I was.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot. You know,
okay.
You can hear the speakers throughout the whole course. You know, I think I think there was some adjustments made this year, and I think they need to kind of refine those a little bit. For example, they moved hole 7 away from the main walking path to create a path for all the spectators, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
But now you have 30 porta potties and a crowd of people walking right on the side of your fairway who aren't always paying attention, who want to get a better view and leak into the fairway. And so, you know, maybe some crowd control next year, maybe a different location for porta potties, maybe, you know, just little tweaks.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. I understand it's a lot. I managed it very well this year. If you asked me last year, I probably would have had a different opinion on it. Just a lot has to go with how you're playing, honestly. But I know, you know, from some other athletes, it was too much. And so I think if it got any more kind of wild, it would be too much, because it's distracting. And it's, you know, it almost has that sort of, like, I think it's the Waste Management Open, a first year event party kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And it's tricky because for us, it's the opposite. It's a playoff event. It's super, super important. People are trying to qualify for the tour spot. You know, it sort of does kind of have that, you know, festival party celebration vibe to it. So it's a tricky balance. And, you know, if you're saying the scale of 1 to 10 and 10 being the max it should be, I think we kind of reached that this year.
Okay.
To be honest.
I was going to say that I think this atmosphere and crowd would maybe work better as the event right before the playoffs. Like, not necessarily a playoff event. And I know that's, everything is kind of the way it is with, there can always be adjustments made, but just, it's so different than every other event that it just doesn't feel, maybe, because by the last event, most people have the tour points locked up, or the tour points that they're going to have. You're probably not going to be dropping any events. that could, depending on your tour life and whatnot, but it feels like maybe it could. And I don't think it's going to be that way for a few years, but I could understand that sentiment, certainly.
The course is so good. It sets up to be a great finishing course.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so, it's historical, and I'm not trying to knock the course or the event at all. And, part of what makes the course and the event so good is the 8 holes, is the crowd on 14, is all of it, the atmosphere, everything. But, and like I said, I think it adds to it. It was great. It's so much fun. But I wouldn't want to see it go too much further and start taking away from the competition.
Yeah. And I'll follow that up with, I think that's important for Steve Dodge and others to know that and to have that perspective. It's also important because I saw a response this weekend by Ty Tanat of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, who also then runs the Des Moines Challenge. And he flat out said, hey, I'm looking for feedback. We do have a hype hole, hole 5, the Beehive, I think it's been the last couple of years. And he, as a TD, just like the Dynamic Disc Open, has to continue to watch the Flamingos on, or the Double Eights, or whatever they call themselves over on 16. There is, as others emulate, you maybe want to keep things in check and say, yes, it's okay to grow and expand, but we have some parameter, some limit where we're just trying not to cross. And so it's important for this event, but it's also important as others are trying to grow and thrive and become more involved as well.
Definitely.
So one of the interesting things you said a little bit ago was, a Finnish perspective, just in general, I think being much more reserved. A lot of Europeans feel that way when they're out playing. So this could be a little bit more of a culture shock or an cultural difference and experience for them. But even rewinding prior to that is, when and how did the friendship start with Evelina and some of the other Finnish players, as you were kind of famously on the bag, and you have been a number of times, so it's not like that was a one-time thing by any means, but when did that kind of start in terms of the friendship and being a caddy for Evelina or others?
That's a great question. I'm trying to think. At some point last year, to be honest, I don't even really know. I think Evelina and I started talking about putting at some point last season. I think, we probably played a practice round together and we just clicked. And, our humor is the same. It feels like, I've known her forever, especially when we're on the disc golf course. And through her, I got close with Henna. And then, just being over in Europe, I've spent the last 3 seasons, I guess, going over and making that Europe trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so, connecting with Niklas and Walmas and Bino. And, I think they appreciate when we go over there and compete over there. And, 3 years ago, there weren't that many people to do that. And so, I'm having trouble like placing, the first time I hung out with them or any specific events, but it's kind of just blossomed and grown throughout the last 2 years.
And often I think about when he's around, Jonathan Pulavinova is a common caddy for Henna specifically. And then obviously we've seen you on the bag a number of times. And it's I think it's so awesome, first of all, that you're out there in support of any FPO player, because your day is that much longer. As was kind of famously said, you were on second or third card at Worlds, but you're out there with Evelina in the morning playing, walking along, not exactly a short walk in the park at Ivy Hill, to then turn around and go out and switch focus to yourself and to be able to compete at a high level for yourself. So I love all of the support that we see whenever that happens. I think it's really awesome. Where did Proctorius come about? Is that a Niklas like original?
That is a
And-
Niklas original.
Okay. So do you remember that story? Because I know I've heard it before, but I also heard it yelled out this weekend.
I honestly don't. He's been calling me that for a while.
Okay.
I'm going to assume that started last year, and obviously it's kind of been taken notice this year. I don't know where he came up with that. He's a funny kid, and you know, all those Finns, when you kind of break them out of their shell and they're comfortable, they're great people, and I just, you know, have so much fun hanging out with them. And yeah, I can't remember. I'll be curious to ask him though. I wonder if he remembers. But it's been going on for a little while.
Okay.
To be fair, I'd take Proctorius over some of the other nicknames that go along with your last name.
Yeah. Are you over any of those? I mean,
It's
I'm
not
sure
my
you've had.
favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not. I mean, at this point, you know, it doesn't bother me, but it's not my favorite. I'm not gonna, like, you know, embrace it and tell everyone to go out and call me
Sure.
proctologist or any of those nicknames. I think it's, you know, it's funny that the 8 holes played a good joke on me. They all had gloves during that last round, and it's funny. You know, it is what it is. I've accepted it, but I'll take Proctorius over those any day.
That's what we'll stick with then.
I like that as well. Very intentional on our behalf as well. I'm a big fan. Okay, I'm sorry. We're going to talk about golf, but now let's get back to the golf this weekend. Lead us into, you know, round 4. Talk a little bit about the first 3 rounds in a more generic level in terms of, you know, how you were feeling, what you were experiencing. You know, before we get to the final round, what did you feel over those first 3 rounds?
Yeah, round 1 was the rainy one, and you know, I was honestly not feeling great going into it. I'd historically not done well at Maple Hill. I actually played skins on Wednesday and threw the disc pretty bad.
Okay.
And so, you know, I think that bad weather day, round 1, kind of took all my expectations away, and it allowed me to just keep it super simple and, you know, hit the first gap. That's all I wanted to do. Give myself looks, try not to bogey, try not to shoot myself out of the tournament. I had a feeling no one was going to really light it up. So my expectations, you know, just be a couple under par. And I ended up throwing the disc really well. I think I was, you know, I'd started better than I ever have on that course.
Damn.
And I wasn't really making any mistakes until 17 and 18. But I didn't really let that bother me because I know how those holes play. I know I still shot a good round. And I, you know, coming in, I think I shot 4 under round 1. And if you had asked me that before the round started, I would have taken it. I would have been stoked. So I'm not going to let 2 bad holes to finish really impact that. And, you know, it kind of gave me some confidence on that course. And so then rounds 2 and 3, it was really the same goal. It was just, you know, throw decent tee shots, keep it up the fairway, give yourself looks. That was really my only goal. I know you can bogey every hole out there. And so I just was really focused on the tee shots. Just, you know, throw the high percentage shot, hit the first gap, keep it down the fairway, just play solid. And I think I shot 8-9 rounds 2 and 3, or 9-8.
Yeah. 8 during
9.
round 2, a near bogey free 8. You had a bogey on 12, but and 8 under during round number 2. So twice as good as round 1, and like you said, just finishing stronger, you know, was almost the entire difference there. You know, I think you went par to close out during round number 2, which immediately shaved, you know, 3 strokes off your.
Which is funny because 17, a par is losing a stroke to most of the field. That is one of the easiest holes on the course. Played, you know, no offense, played one of the easiest holes on the course as I think it was birdie about 60% almost all the rounds.
Oh yeah, no, I'm aware. And I was kicking myself, you know, it is. And I think I executed decent tee shots every time. It just, for some reason, I didn't have that approach dialed. And, you know, that's how that course can play sometimes. Like, it's funny. I struggle way more on hole 15 than I do on 16, which I can't really explain that. You know, I was putting on 16 every round. I laced that gap every round. I laced the gap on 9. I was in a perfect spot on hole 9 every round. And previously, I'm pretty sure if you look last year, I was probably like 6 over par on that hole for 4 rounds. So, you know, it's just certain holes, certain shots, just felt comfortable this year. And I don't really have an explanation for it. But I was just kind of riding with it. You know, I was taking the shots from previous rounds and just telling myself, you know how it feels, go do it again. And so, yeah, hole 17 was just an anomaly, I feel like. And, you know, I think I doinked a putt round 3. Like I left the upshot a little short and just missed the putt. But yeah, that hole you're counting on a birdie, and then going into 18, you know, I will take a par every single time. And I think I think round 2, I threw it out of bounds off the tee and then got on the island with the sidearm and saved par. And then round 3, good tee shot, OB, but crossed in and then saved the par with the drop zone putt. So, you know, both weren't clean pars. I wasn't laying up and taking a par. You know, both had errors, but I was just able to clutch up and minimize the damage and not take a big number. So, yeah.
And I guess cumulatively, looking at rounds 1 through 3, you had like 4 over par strokes, roughly. I mean, I think you had 1 in round 3, 1 in round 2, and then the bogey and double in round 1. When you look back, just in general, and you think, hey, through 54 holes out here, I've gone over par 4 times on a hole.
Mm-hmm.
Call me, scared of that course, but that seems pretty damn good. Does it feel as good as it sounds, or no?
Yeah, I mean, it felt incredible. And, you know, there's holes that I feel confident on and there's holes that I'm intimidated by. And I think that level of respect just kind of led me to, you know, not get too worried about getting birdies. Like, I was fine with pars and,
okay,
you know, trusting my putt enough to be happy with a 40-footer and then go knock it down. And, you know, I know bogeys are going to happen out there. So when I did bogey, I remember that bogey on 12, I threw 3 bad shots and had a chance to make the putt and still missed it. And, you know, I know that's going to happen. So I wasn't too frustrated. I really didn't get frustrated ever that entire tournament, even when I did some bonehead stuff, even when I doubled 18. I just know, you know, I had the mindset that it's going to happen. And if you want to keep yourself in contention, you can't let anything like that frustrate you. So it felt incredible.
Good. And then before we get to the final round, my question would be, we're looking at a tournament that, you know, when it's all said and done, 29 under is what you shoot. Rewind to, you know, just a weekend before, 2 different courses and everything else. I get all that, but, you know, you're looking at 45, 46 under. A lot of our tournaments, double digits per round, it feels like it's almost a requirement. Here you have 4 rounds, and the average is still coming out to, you know, what, 7.5 roughly. You know, you're talking about needing 7 or 8 under on average to ultimately win this. Just overall, what does that say about the course? And then do you care what a winning score needs to be at the end of a weekend? Do you care if it's, you need 14 under on average versus 7 under on average? Does any of that matter?
None of that matters to me. And it just goes to show you how all 18 holes have danger. You know, there are a couple holes that you want to birdie every time, but you still need to execute a high level shot. And there's just a lot of holes that I want to say feel like bonuses. You know, it's hole 1 in that long pin. Like, that's a really tough birdie. Hole 3, very, very tough birdie. Hole 6, like, that's a bonus for me. Hole 9 is super high level. You know, hole 13, you have to throw a good shot and also kind of get a good break. Hole 14, it's super easy to just play it safe and take a par. 16's tough, and 18. So there's so many holes on that course that can bite you and that are difficult to birdie. And so I think that just goes to show you how that course, you know, for 4 rounds, you have to be resilient. You have to have a game plan. You have to know how you want to attack it. You have to be prepared to get some good luck and some bad luck and just kind of roll with it.
So we come into the final round, and I'll pull back the curtain just for a moment and say, production meeting just minutes before we go live, you know, there's the obvious conversation of the year Ricky and Gannon have been having. Gannon's literally locked into first place for the tour points no matter what happened this weekend. Ricky is locked into second. Here they are obviously battling for the win, and then the other two being you and Gossage, and someone like Macbeth wasn't even on our radar really at that point. Not pre-round, he wasn't on our radar anymore. He worked himself out of that. Gavin Babcock is part of the conversation as well, because of what we saw over him in the last couple days, and you two are. It's not an insult to say you two weren't the outright favorites probably coming into that final round. I don't think you'd be offended by that. What was your mentality though coming into that final round?
I really just wanted to play solid. I wasn't thinking about, I need to go shoot 13 to beat Gannon or Rick. I kind of figured they were going to do their thing. If you told me, you're going to get third place, I would have been like, sweet. I played good. It wasn't, I had nerves. I haven't been on lead card a whole lot this year, especially last round. So I was really excited. And I just, honestly, I didn't want to go out there and make myself look like a fool. I had played solid coming up to that point. I had felt pretty good on the course. So I kind of was just hoping to keep riding that wave and just go out there and shoot a solid round. And, I know that course, if you get too caught up in what the other person is doing, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And so I wasn't even really paying attention to Gannon or Rick. I wasn't paying attention to anyone else. I just kind of wanted to go out there and do my thing. And yeah.
Do you have a feeling when you're on the course as to how the other players are doing? I mean, obviously there's physical tells, there's emotional tells when, a player is getting upset, but this final round, did you realize what was happening with Gannon and Ricky, how they were kind of just like they weren't keeping up?
No, I mean, Rick got off to that hot start.
Mm-hmm.
And, after the main turning point for me, I think was the bogeying 7. That was the best thing I ever could have done because it took all the pressure off. After that bogey, I said, all right, now you just get to go have fun. Like Rick probably had me by 4 or 5 strokes. I stopped caring about the win. I already made myself look stupid. So I said, just go out and have fun. And yeah, it's funny, like coming down the stretch, I had no idea where I was at. I completely forgotten that Gannon had taken that double on 8. You could see Rick was getting frustrated. He was missing a couple lines. He had that shot on 14. But I had no idea where anyone was at. I thought I was kind of keeping track, and I completely forgot that Rick went bogey, and I completely forgot that Gannon took a double. And I was kind of thinking to myself, like, how did I catch these guys? Because I knew I got some birdies, but the math, like, I wasn't really thinking about it too hard. And so I guess I didn't do a great job of keeping track. No.
Well, I'll follow that up and say, not only was it your card, which is the huge advantage, and why Doss, for instance, talks about being on the lead card final day, and because obviously what your closest competitors are doing, and you can decide how much you want to pay attention to it. But lurking in the shadows is McBeast, right? And he's had his flashes of glory at this particular weekend and throughout the year. He's not he doesn't have McBeast mode on lockdown like he did, a few years ago. But here he comes charging up, and in the booth, we're like, oh my God, what's going on? I mean, could this be a Matty O scenario where, he's just going to run these out and the other players won't have enough holes or time for it? No clue what McBeast was doing either then? Or did you see his score?
Absolutely no idea.
Wow.
I had zero idea. Not until the whole tournament was over and somebody came up to me and was like, yeah, did you, blah, blah, blah. I was like, no idea.
Huh? What guy?
I mean, looking back on it, am I surprised he shot 11? No, not at all. But, and if I had known, would it have played out differently the last 4 or 5 holes? Probably. But I had zero. I honestly, I remember once walking down the fairway on 14, I accidentally caught a glimpse of the physical scoreboard of us 4. And before I just saw names, before I could even look at the scores, I looked away. I said, it doesn't even matter. Just go make putts. Like, I had absolutely zero idea.
The wild part about that is I get it. You know, if you're a confident putter, it doesn't matter necessarily on the green of 14. I think 15, 16, 17 play out no matter what.
Really, on the green of 14?
No. I'm saying if you're a confident putter.
I don't care how confident you are on 14. I know that wall has changed it a little bit, but that's still a scary putt for me.
I totally agree, but I'm just saying when you're 28 feet and you're James Proctor, like you're going for it no matter what the score is. Right. So I get that. But then and 15, 16, 17, you know, those are all out shots no matter what. But 18, like one of the most challenging, electric, crazy, you know, everything to close out a tournament. That's hole 18 all day long at MVP at that course. And you didn't know the score.
Yeah, I mean, so you're right. 14, I get it. That's a crazy putt, but there's so much golf left still. You got to run that. You don't know what happens. You're right. 15, 16, 17, I'm trying to birdie. I'm, you know, throw a good shot, make a putt. That's all I'm thinking. After I made the putt on 15, the cameras never left my face. And so I had an idea.
Sure.
You know, I'm sitting there watching Gannon putt and there's a camera in my face.
Yeah.
I had an idea, but at that point, it didn't matter who was behind me, who was in front of me. I didn't know if I was tied. I didn't know if I was up by 2.
Sure.
Throw a good shot, make a putt. Going into 18, you know, I kind of had an idea because I had birdied 14, 15, 16, 17. So, you know, the fact that the camera was on me and I kept birdie and I had an idea. I had thrown that tee shot well. I was confident in it. I didn't want to change my game plan. I'm just roping a wraith on a hyzer. You know, so I wanted to execute a good tee shot. Had I executed a good tee shot and had the option to go for the island, I would have asked Allie, what do I need? But given the fact that I threw the tee shot, didn't really have an option to go for the island, it still didn't matter at that point. My next shot was a layup no matter what. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was after the tee shot or after the second shot, but Allie told me you just need a par. And so that, you know, eased my mind a little bit. But still, even then, I didn't know if it was Gannon or if it was Rick or if it was Goose. I didn't know who was behind me. And yeah, I just had felt confident on that tee shot, so I didn't want to change my game plan.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much to change on that tee shot in general. I mean, you could play it a little safer, but you're going to end up in the same spot probably with the layup. I mean, if you're laying it up, you play yourself 50 feet shorter, and then you lay it up, and you're going to be probably at the same spot. The approach on 18 to get onto the green, what happened?
I felt confident enough to get up and down with that sidearm, and you know, at that time, I had never even considered. I was only able to putt it maybe another 30 feet anyway. It still would have been a chip sidearm, so I didn't really see a point in that. You know, it wasn't like I could go putt because they brought that OB so far back. That wasn't an option anymore. So after the second shot landed, I knew I needed a par to win, or that's what Allie said. You par and you're fine. I had thought about going backhand and hyzer, but I kind of thought about, you know, if you execute this shot, you probably still have a 20-footer. If you execute the sidearm spike, you're tap in. It's like, I'd rather have the tap in. So I was feeling pretty good. I knew you don't come up short. I wanted to hang it wide and keep it on hyzer. I thought if I kept it on hyzer the whole way, it wouldn't go long. You know, and I felt pretty good, stepped up, threw it. I liked it out of my hand. It was on hyzer. I thought it was fine. It hit the rock wall, went OB. And I said, and you know, at that point, I didn't know if it mattered or not, but I was like, all right, Allie, what happens if I make the putt? And she said, you win. And I said, okay, that's all I'm thinking. I'm just going to go make the putt. Like, there's no other, I wasn't thinking about anything. I didn't know if I missed the putt, if I still would have won. If I missed the putt, if I lost, like, I had no idea. All I asked her, I said, what happens when I make the putt? She said, you win. I said, okay, let's do it.
Wow.
Wow, that gives me chills just hearing it, even hearing it again. Maybe this is, we've already answered it then, but was she just the right amount of caddy? Because, I mean, what a pressure-packed moment for her to be in of what to say, what not to say, how much to give you, how much to lean into you, and I don't want to say scare, but how much to alert you of. Like, give us the how it went. First of all, how did she become your caddy for the round, and then also break down, how well did she do?
She was perfect. I couldn't have asked her to do anything else. I think her telling me all you need was a par. I think it was after the tee shot was smart.
Okay.
Kind of settled me down a little bit. I can still par. Fine. Literally, other than that, I could see her checking scores.
Uh-huh.
She didn't show me. She didn't tell me. I couldn't tell what was going on by any of her facial reactions. And we're walking up to the tee pad on 17, keeping it light. Walking up to the drive, the putt, everything. It was, I'm pretty sure you can see me like even crack a smile after I missed the island. Like I was still able to be calm and just focus on the next shot. And she had caddied for me. I think her and Mary switched off round 1, but she had caddied for me every round 2, round 3, and round 4. And we've kind of clicked, and I actually followed her around that morning because she was playing with Eve. But yeah, it's just, it's fun. We're talking shop a little bit. It started, she played really bad and missed the cut a couple weeks ago and wanted to be distracted. And so she said, "Hey, can I come caddy for you?" I said, "Of course." And we, she's been dealing with some yips with her putt. And so we just talked about putting, talked about her game, talked about my game. And, it's been great because it's just, it's fun for me to have that distraction, to be able to talk about something else, whether it's disc golf related or not. We've spent some time, vending because we're, sponsored by the same company. So we'll set up and vend together. And yeah, I think she just kind of understands what I need in different moments. And I trusted her and she did an amazing job.
That you sets up, all of this sets up so beautifully. I mean, it is such a story that sounds like it's a script for a movie, in that here we are, figuratively, of course, it's the bottom of the ninth, 2 on, 2 out, or 3 on, 2 out, whatever, full count. Like, you need that putt to win it, to avoid extra innings, to avoid an aggregate playoff, which we'll talk about in a moment. But
with the greatest player of all time, which you didn't know.
You needed everything, and then to step up, and then your prowess being known for one of the best putters on the planet. Here you have a second day in a row. Who hits from that drop zone 2 days in a row? Probably no one else all weekend long. Just hitting one every 5 years from the drop zone is kind of a highlight for people. And here you hit on third round, and you have it again on final round, final shot to keep Macbeth at bay and to take it down. How the hell does that get scripted any better?
I couldn't make it up. I am so thankful that putt went in. And honestly, now I'm so thankful that third shot went out of bounds. Like, yeah, it would have been great if it was in and I tapped in a birdie and won, but the story just wouldn't have been the same. Right. And yeah, I mean, I practiced the drop zone putt twice in practice. Both my putters, one missed high, one missed low. And I remember I think it was one. I didn't wanted to make and so when she made that putt, and I kind of told myself when I got the opportunity, I was going to knock that down too. And round 3, out of my hand, it just felt perfect. Like I knew it was in the moment it left my fingers. And, so I knew what the putt needed to look like. I knew what it needed to feel like. I knew where I wanted to stand on the drop zone to allow myself to jump and not plow into that log. And out of the hand, initially, I thought I left it like an inch too low. And that's kind of why I didn't raise my hand right away. And then once I saw it carry halfway through the flight, I knew it was no doubt at that point. But yeah, I mean, I'm having to go, like, I didn't know it at the time, obviously. And, as you mentioned, I had no idea that the playoff would have been 1 in 18. Knowing that fact, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that I didn't have to go into that playoff, because get me off a hole 18. Like, I do not want to have to play that more than I need to. But yeah, it's absolute storybook. You know, like I said, had that third shot landed in bounds and I tapped in, obviously, you know, it would have been incredible. I would have won the event, but it wouldn't have been the same story as knocking down that drop zone putt.
So, as we were just saying, you didn't know specifically about Paul or that there would be a playoff, but a few holes, we were thinking about it during the FPO show, and I kind of brought it up during the MPO show then, that, hey, if there's a playoff, it's aggregate, which, first of all, is not commonplace for us to do.
Yeah.
They need a special waiver ahead of time. They thought they had it last year, but they didn't, and it was some confusion. But aggregate playoff in place that you guys go to hole number 1, you play hole 1 regardless of score, you go to hole 2, you add up those two holes, and then 18 and 1, or 1 and then 18. And if it's still tied after 2 holes, then you go to sudden death, which is your standard playoff format, back on hole number 1. So, knowing that's all not happening for now at this point for you,
yeah,
how do you feel about that? How maybe do you, hindsight's 2020, how do you think you would have felt about that? You know, if you were tied and you and Macbeth were about to play those 2 holes again.
I would have been extremely nervous. I would have felt like I need to end it on 1. And so, probably, unless my drive was in a completely awful place, you know, blocked by a Christmas tree or whatever, I would have gone for it on 1. I actually did birdie 18 in the skins match, so I know I could do it. But yeah, I would have been curious, because actually, you know, my game plan round 3, I birdied hole 1 by throwing a backhand putter straight through and then making the 40-footer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to have to go forehand through there. I don't know if I would have done that or not. I probably, honestly, depending on where my drive land, might have just played the backhand straight through and trusted myself to make the putt. I think it's a really, really cool idea. I think, what did they do it in Kansas this year or last year? And it was like a 3-hole
Dynamic
deal?
Disc Open also had an aggregate playoff, and we ended up seeing it on the FPO side.
I think it's an interesting idea. I don't know, you know, if one way is better than the other. But it does give, you know, in case something fluky happens or something, you know, it gives the player a chance to kind of redeem themselves. And it just adds to the drama, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think Maple Hill needs to end on hole 18. And so whether you just play hole 18 9 times or you play
Mm-hmm.
1 and 18, it needs to end on 18. And so, yeah, I think it would have been exciting. It would have been super, super exciting. It's definitely an interesting way to do it. I want to say it probably doesn't make sense for every course,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it does make sense for that one. So,
Well, for your own sake, I'm glad you didn't have to go up against Paul on hole 18, because he bogeyed it round 1, but then he birdied it round 2. He threw an 100-footer on round 3, and then he birdied it on round 4 as well. So that hole sets up for him. He's got such a great forehand that it's just, you know, I'm glad you didn't have to face that, James.
I am as well, 100%.
To maybe follow that up, of course, another storyline of the year, and then specifically the weekend, is there's a streak that Paul has that's on the line that I'm sure you're aware of. You know, we're seeing both him and Rick have gone these last 13 or 14 years getting an Elite Series or Major. Rick's obviously checked that box. Paul hasn't. And in what would have been dramatic fashion, he almost had his chance at it again this weekend. This was one of the closer opportunities he's had as of late, and you ended that. But what just maybe even, you know, knowing that you're from NorCal, knowing that you've been around basically as long as Paul's been on the scene and you've been aware of him, I mean, what does that say? The streak and just Paul in general. Do you have thoughts on that?
I mean, I have the most respect for Paul, and, you know, the fact that those streaks for both him and Rick just shows the consistency throughout their careers, the longevity. I hope he gets it. You know, I really, really do. I know he's been battling with injury. You know, I know it's not the season he's wanted. He's a father now. You know, he's got other things going on. And I know how bad he wants majors. I think, what is he, 1 away from Kenny?
Yeah.
Kenny? Yeah. So, you know, I actually just noticed earlier this year, I guess I clicked on Paul's Instagram, and it's U.S. titles, and it's every third year. What is it, 18, 21, and so it would be fitting if he wins in 24. I'll be rooting for him. Sorry, not sorry for not letting him get that one.
No, you're not sorry.
I mean,
Paul wouldn't want you to give it to him. We know that.
Yeah.
I have the utmost respect for that man and his career and what he's done for the sport and how unbelievably talented he is. And, it almost seems like a storybook that he would win US this year. Just, that every third year, getting a tie in the major, getting the whatever year in a row. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
But at the same time, you wouldn't mind, putting the USDGC in your back pocket either. So.
Oh, are you kidding me? I mean, I just got used to calling myself a 2-time Elite Series champion. If I can add a major to that, that would be insane.
And maybe this, going along those lines, I think of Missy Gannon, who's been obviously so good and so competitive over these last few years and has picked up titles and defended at Ledgestone. But it almost felt like I don't want to say the floodgate opened and it came rushing through, but this year when she cracked open with the major at the U.S. Women's, then you saw even a heightened Missy Gannon and picking up multiple pro tours throughout this year. And I think about yourself in that capacity as well. I mean, what a build, right? The Swedish Open, then this playoff, 4-round, all that other stuff, and now is a major. Is that the next obvious, goal for yourself?
I mean, obviously, yeah, I think it's everyone's goal to win a major. Does it seem more realistic now? Of course. Do I feel that I can do it? Yes. I'm more confident than I've ever been, especially to be able to perform down the stretch. And, I've played USDGC a handful of times. I've done pretty well there in the past. It's a course I'm comfortable with. I kind of know how to attack it. So, yeah, I nothing's impossible at this point. I think, winning is interesting because it's like the elephant is off your back. You feel like maybe, there's less pressure, but also it creates this hunger inside of you to get another one. You start chasing that. Right. And I fell into the trap after Swedish Open of, fourth place, whatever, that doesn't matter. Like if it's not a win, I don't care. And I kind of fell into that a little bit. And I had to kind of check myself and, put myself back into place. And so, I'm not going to let that happen again. But at the same time, I feel, I know I can do it. Right. Swedish Open was interesting because there was no big dogs on that card. I think Paul was on Chase. But I got to kind of be that guy, almost treat it like an A tier, where it was like, this is mine and you guys aren't going to take it. But this was a lot different. I had Gannon and Rick, the two best players on the card. And to be able to kind of reach out and take it from them, it feels good. And so I was able to prove to myself that, I am good enough. I can do it. It doesn't matter who I'm competing against. It doesn't matter what the course is. It's just, when you have opportunities like that, and I know they won't come every week, every month, they're hard to get to that point, but I'm good enough to go take it. And so, that's exciting for me.
It is, and I obviously that many more fans have become that much louder and in your corner, which is 100% expected and warranted, and as it should be. Right before we went live tonight, just 2 minutes before it, you had said, "Yeah, that's 8 weeks, or I'm sorry, 8 rounds, so to speak." We're closing out the year, but this is a little bit of a grueling test when you're talking about the 4 rounds at GMC, a very short turnaround to 4 more rounds at Maple Hill, mentally, probably the most exhausting course out there. Yes, a little break and then USDGC and the Tour Championship, but how do you feel both mentally and physically as we're officially winding down the season? And you still have 8 really important rounds of golf left.
Yeah, I feel almost rejuvenated. I think that win kind of it brought just so much joy and so much excitement, and the fact that there is only 2 more events left, I just feel ready to go. I feel like my game is in a good place. I feel confident. I got to come home. I'm home right now for the next couple of days, and that plays a big part in it. I was, I think, on the road for 7 weeks up until yesterday. So my cup is full right now, and it was feeling a little bit empty, but the glass is full. I'm excited. I have energy, and I look forward. I'm excited to play these next 2 events. The bigger, the better. Pro Tour Champs is a little bit different. It's a different vibe. It's, but it's going to be fun. And I'm looking forward to it.
I always ask, biggest win of your career now, biggest paycheck of your career. What's the splurge? What's the thing that, maybe happens either this week or the next few weeks that otherwise might not have happened? The purchase, the trip, the whatever. What's the splurge?
It's funny, I was actually talking to my wife earlier today, and it seems for me personally, the bigger the check is, the more I want to just save it. You have a nice round, you sneak into top 20, you get 1,100. You're like, sweet, let's go out, let's get some sushi. I see 15 G's. I'm like, I'm not touching any of that. But she also mentioned like a little Disneyland trip beginning of December. So I think, I kind of green lighted that trip, and I think that check had something to do with that. So I guess that'll be the splurge is going to hang out with Mickey and Minnie.
We didn't even get the great walking off the course. Like, I'm going to Disneyland.
Yeah, I know. we missed that. I don't know if our newer viewers or younger viewers may not even know some of that.
They still
reference.
do that.
Do they?
They still do that a little. Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then that goes hand in hand with, even we're winding down the season, so I'm sure everyone across the entire industry is slowly closing it out as well. But an increase in fanfare, Instagram messages, that kind of stuff. Has there been anything crazy or additional asks of you that have been demanding of you after such a big weekend?
No asks, nothing like demanding. It's just been so fun to see all the support, all the messages. My social medias were kind of blowing up a little bit, and I bought Wi-Fi on the plane, so I had a good 5 hours to kind of sit there and go through everything.
Great move.
Yes.
And for me, that moment was so huge, and it was all such a blur. My favorite part has been watching all the videos from different angles and just seeing people's reactions. And, seeing Gannon's, he just posted a video that he was filming right behind me, and seeing it from that angle. And you can see Ella jumping like higher than she's ever jumped before in her life, I'm sure, in the background. Watching the angle of Allie just, sprinting behind me. That's been the most fun for me, is seeing everyone's reactions and, kind of trying to realize really how cool that was. And, it almost feels like sort of I'm watching someone else do it. And then taking a second and being like, no, that was me. Like, you did that. It's been a little bit hard to kind of comprehend, but it's been fun at the same time.
Well, I'm sure we're all going to get a chance to see it over and over as it's played on the Disc Golf Network and everything, because I would argue that it's probably, I'm going to say second behind Holland Hanley's putt at Beaver State. Like, as far as like exciting moments to finish events. When she didn't finish it with that, but she got to go to the playoff and win. But yeah, I mean, between that and your putt, just electric, both of them. And just, you're right, I just saw another post of it from a fan that looked like he was behind the stands filming it from the side. It's amazing.
It's been so fun.
And what we love about it, I think, is, and I already said it before, is like the low probability Like, so many people go to that drop zone. I'm sure there's a stat that could be found or figured out at some point.
I honestly thought the putt was a little right when I was like, oh no,
by an inch, a little, yeah. But just how many people go to that drop zone, and usually it's after you're deflated, you're mad, you miss the island by a mile, or just barely caught the edge of it, so that's why you're going there, or you had a heartbreak that it didn't stay on the island, so you go to that drop zone usually with such a deflated sense, and then again, drawing medal or making it is such a bonus, but for you to step up and to do it, to close it out,
I think it was so crucial to just have the mindset of you have an opportunity to make a putt, and to not even worry, not what the scores were, what happens if I miss. The only thing I was thinking about is just go make it. And, I think that was kind of my mindset the entire event. Throw a great shot, hit a late tree, kick the 40, go make the putt. I'm not going to sit there and be frustrated and ask for pity. Just, you have an opportunity, go make it. And that's been my mindset the last couple of events, and that was my mindset this week. And I think it, had everything to do with me coming out on top.
And what a great takeaway for everybody at home. We see the outward demeanor. Sometimes we see internal dialogue, so to speak, or we guess what internal dialogue is. Then we see an outward demeanor from a lot of our players. Understandably, there's a lot of emotion going on out there. But what a great takeaway for everybody at home, thinking, man, how could I approach my next round or my next event? And it's that essentially never give up mentality of, sure, the tee shot didn't go great or the approach didn't go great, but I have a chance to fix it, so to speak, by making a good putt and doing that. So someone's asked on the board, he's a regular, Tim said, what has been your best performance at USDGC? And then maybe I'll follow that up with, what do you need to do to make it even better this year?
I think 2015, and I saw it kind of circulating around. I played chase card with Macbeth, Ricky, and Climo. Ricky or Shoestrick? Yeah, and so that was a good. I think I shot 5 under, and then we played in awful weather, and I shot even. And so I was never over par on that course, and it got me to 14th or 15th. And then I think I played well there last year or the year before. But it's somewhere around, 13, 14, 15, I think has been my best performance at USDGC.
Okay. And then what do you feel like now that you've had a couple of years experience there, what's, the course essentially is asking of you, what do you feel like is going to be added to the recipe to be more successful this year?
I think, honestly, my sidearm feels really good right now. Okay. And I think it's a lot safer to attack some of those holes with a forehand. And so, I'm going to have the same game plan. I'm going to play the high percentage shot off the tee, keep it in bounds, see a bunch of green flags, and then hopefully just make a bunch of putts. And if I'm able to do that, I think a win is definitely a possibility. But like I said, I'm not going to chase that win or nothing mentality. If I go out there and get top 10, I'm going to be stoked. I'm going to be super happy. So, I think someone asked me before the round and was, are you going to win? Are you going to do this? Whatever. I said, I can't control if Gannon goes and shoots a 15.
Mm-hmm.
The kid's incredible. If someone goes out there and beats me, hats off to him, but I'm not going to go out there and beat myself. And so I'm excited to attack it, and I'm excited to kind of see how the chips fall.
When will you be getting out there? You're at home now, but when are you going to travel out there?
I fly out Saturday, so I think I might actually have time to play around Saturday. So I'll probably play at least Saturday, Sunday, and then, of course, take Monday off for Monday qualifying, and then get 2 more rounds in Tuesday, Wednesday, and then be ready to go on Thursday.
I love it.
So weird. It starts on Thursday.
Yeah, just because it's gone back and forth with a Wednesday versus Thursday start.
Yeah, in my gut, it always feels like USCGC should be a Wednesday, but it's a Thursday now, and I have to get used to that.
It's been a few years that way.
I know. This is like the second or third?
No, at least the
it
third or fourth.
It still feels like it should be a Wednesday. I don't know.
Well, hopefully you'll be staring up at presumably the fireworks, assuming they're gonna stick to that. Then again, they change up things every year, so who knows? But fireworks is awfully a common touch to close that out. So
yeah, it's always fun.
All right, let's start to get cut you loose here. But before we do so, we have to ask, what are the best ways that people can support you, your sponsors, directly, indirectly, whatever it is? Jump on a platform and scream it. How everyone can go out and support you.
Yeah, I mean, check out the ThoughtSpace website. We got the new tour series Crux coming out October 9th. We're gonna have some victory stamped discs as well. And then Infinite, as always, you can find alpha discs there, and then you can find all of my tour series on the Infinite website. If you just search James Proctor, it'll pull up all of my stuff there.
All right. And then where are you at bag-wise? And is there any special codes or anything else that people can help with?
Squatch has been an amazing bag. It's kind of funny, caddying for Allie and Evelina. I have the lightest bag on tour probably. And, they're super comfortable. I believe my code is Proctor10, but maybe I'll go post on my Instagram story later and confirm that, because I don't remember what it is right now. But Squatch bags.
Yes. Okay. Out at Squatch. You were talking about reactions and then internet on the plane. I would have almost loved a little hidden cam on you flipping through your reactions on the plane. Like everybody else is probably trying to sleep or enjoy their time. And there's probably just a grin from ear to ear and a little glow coming off your screen as thousands of messages are rolling in. And you're like, yeah. I would.
That plane flight flew by. It was just the most. You're right. I probably didn't stop smiling the entire time.
I mean, so there's your secret. Just win every event, and then the travels afterwards. Those are so much shorter and easier.
Yeah. Exactly.
See, I'll help out somewhere. James, before we let you go, anything you want to share with the world in any capacity, disc golf related or otherwise? But the floor is totally yours if there's anything you want to share.
Drive for show and putt for dough. That's all I got for you.
I don't know if there's better words than that. I absolutely love it. So, James, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate you taking the time. We know a ton of people and outlets, and everybody's probably barking out at you, hoping to join. So we really do appreciate you being on here, giving us a little more insight, pulling back the curtain, and something tells me we're gonna continue to talk to you more and more as these next couple of years roll on, and we're looking forward to that.
I look forward to it as well. Thank you guys.
All right. Have a good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, James.
Thank you.
Yep.
Proctorious.
100%. I love it. I remember hearing Niklas yell that out. We'll say everybody was sober. He was yelling that out at some point overseas. And he does have a really good time as well. I enjoy seeing it. So
I was thinking about what James was saying about how the Europeans feel about MVP and just the environment, the atmosphere, whether they like it or not. I don't think James necessarily said, but it's different
for sure.
Could you see a European event with the same type of energy, we'll say, as the MVP, knowing the Europeans and their fans? Like, could you see something like that in Europe? Or, because you've been over there quite a bit, so I think you have a better feel than maybe a lot of others as to how that crowd, would they take on some of the double eights, the 8 holes, the thing? Could they, and do you think would they?
It's tough because if we're going just purely on stereotypes, a lot of the, we'll say Scandinavian area, I think of is just so much just reserved.
Sure.
And that's not to say they don't have a good time or they don't get into things. They're just much more reserved and introverted, and maybe I guess is what I could. It would be interesting to see that charge led, because I'll be the first to say clearly it's not like there's a shortage of applause or clapping
or enthusiasm.
Yeah. But to see it taken to a level in which people are going, we'll say, above and beyond.
American level.
Yeah, I don't know. Not to say it couldn't happen.
So, all right. If it did, what course and what hole?
excuse me. I was just thinking of like specifically this year being at Crokel and where the space is out at Crokel. And I think of hole 18 just as one example. You have this beautiful area that can seat or stand hundreds, if not thousands of people. Just they're throwing from way on top of a hill down to the final hole, which has some drama and requires a really good, second or third shot. But then that course in general is relatively open, and you can have some pretty big galleries forming in places. I think of hole 17 out there specifically, which used to be their old hole 18, I guess. But hole 16 and 17 back-to-back are just such great spectator areas, and it's near the end of the round. So I love those options, 16, 17, 18. But then you go to both at the European Disc Golf Festival and in Tampere, your galleries are already so massive. You're talking 3,000-4,000 people.
Yeah.
Look at 16 is maybe one of the easiest examples. 16 right now, which kind of shares space with 10's fairway, 16 and 10 in Nokia.
At the Beast?
Yeah, at the Beast. Those are where...
That doesn't feel like the right hole. 16? Well, at least not with the...
Why? Because it's an island green, unlike
No,
8 at Maple Hill, or unlike 18 at the Maple Hill.
I'm just thinking of how... And maybe the rules now are different, but when you... like the rules before where you would just throw and throw and throw, like
Sure.
I just don't see the crowd being able to maintain the enthusiasm in that environment versus maybe a different hole on particularly 16. Now, again, with the new rules, the way they're changed, maybe that's different because we're not going to see those big numbers like an 11 because you won't get that on 8 ever. You're gonna 5 is probably the most you're going to see. Maybe a 6.
6, yeah, 6.
Yeah, you miss, and then you miss the thing and go in the water, and then
you miss again.
Yeah, you miss again. Okay, so all right, so 6.
6 is absolutely the highest number you should ever
take.
see.
Yeah, short of a very bad spit or something. Just 16 doesn't, to me at least, and maybe obviously I haven't been there. Just doesn't feel like that would that's a place for it. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a great spot there for everyone to hunker down and just cheer as loud as they can and come up with some clever,
Yeah, I mean, clearly the places where islands seem to create that much more drama because after every tee shot, it's a definitive yay or nay, right? Good or bad, it's very definitive. And if somebody just throws a really good shot on a particular par 3, it's like ooh or ah, but on the par 3s that have islands, it's so much more clear that it was a really good or a not so good shot. So I don't know. I don't know if we would I don't know if we'd see that. I think just a large spectator area, I don't know if we're going to see the extra hoopla, as the kids would never say these days. Rigmarole, what's the
We're not
word?
gonna say rigmarole
Not
either.
rigmarole. Not chaos. Hoopla is a good pomp and circumstance.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That feels a little too formal. Maybe in Europe it would be pomp and circumstance because they're a little more thing. All right, let's talk a little bit about the
losers.
The losers. We had the winner on, and the first loser, Paul Macbeth.
Ouch.
No,
Too soon.
If there's one thing that you have to take away from this weekend, it's that Paul Macbeth still owns Maple Hill. Like, there's something about this course, whether it's the shots, because it feels like his game plays so well to this course. A lot of flip to flat or flat to just very little turnover shots that just go straight. It's like his bread and butter out here. And congratulations to Paul on shooting a phenomenal final round to get himself from 10th or 12th place. He moved up. I'm sorry, he moved up 6 spots. So he was in 8th. I think a tie for 8th place with some other people into 2nd place. And to really, although I can't say he put the pressure on James, but to make it feel like he put the pressure on.
If James knew the scores,
there would have been
more pressure.
There would have been definitely more pressure. Paul should have just showed up on 18 like, hey,
Yeah, what's going on over here?
Just watching. Don't worry about it.
Are you trying to put this one on? Or
Weird. And third place, Gavin Babcock, who has been playing pretty well lately. He's helping himself out in the Tour Championship numbers, taking a third place, tied with Gannon Burr and Aaron Gossage. And Ricky Wysocki. There was a 4-way tie for third. So as we discussed, Gannon and Ricky just not able to really kind of keep the momentum going, shooting a 4 and 5 under respectively that round. Not horrible, but not what they needed clearly to take the win. Seventh place, Parker Welk, who fell 2 spots in that final round, but overall a really good showing. We haven't mentioned much about Parker the last year or so as far as top finishes. I think maybe he's got one top 10 other than this, and they've been just kind of maintaining. I know he's gone through a little bit of injury now and again, but at this point, it feels like everybody is.
Yeah, well, he had Lyme disease that he got, and then he got his car jacked.
He got the car back, though.
No, he got his bag back, more so. But yes,
I think he got the car back, too.
And I think it was ultimately totaled.
Yeah.
It wasn't drivable, from my understanding. So, yeah, he does have a big arm to defend, a big arm title, big arm challenge title to defend. Which I am excited to watch out there and film in Arizona in now just a few months, not even. But anyway, yes, good to see him jump up and tell everybody, like, hey, I'm here to play some good woods golf as well this weekend.
8th place, Austin Turner, our resident lefty. 9th place, Ezra Robinson, falling 2 spots that final round. Ezra, he was in contention for a while, and as we talked about, there was one unfortunate hole on 13, just watching him. Like literally in the middle of his like backswing for his putt, the crowd just erupts, and you could see it shook him. And then, even though he was about to putt again, they roar again, even though it wasn't in his stroke. But you could tell at that point that he was frustrated and it was in his head. And, but ultimately shooting a 6 down that final round at 10:45, nothing to scoff at. Corey Ellis jumping up a spot into 10th place at 23 under. Corey getting himself into the Pro Tour finale with this finish. Congratulations, Corey Ellis.
I'd like to quickly follow that up, and we'll talk about it on the FPO side as well. As the producer of our show, Mo, I am not the producer, but as our producer's job is to help find and then have us tell stories.
And I'll say, from a viewer perspective, I thought that was pretty well done this week with a lot of those lower qualifiers.
Well, so that's my question to the rest of the public that's not named Johnny V, is that compelling? Was that the right amount? Was that too much? Was that not enough emphasis on the people coming into the bubble spots, as we continue to talk about? And there was a lot of conversation about it clearly the weekend before at the GMC as well. That's where that's where we learned of Hannah Wynn and Stacy Kiefer and seeing that battle possibly, and Ellie Midling. And by the first round of GMC, we knew that who was on the bubble on both the FPO and MPO. Mm-hmm. We are coming into the playoffs, so that is the appropriate time
it's when you
to start talking about who's making it in, because these are the last 2 events that were additive, and these are the people that are exactly that, on the bubble. My question, and I'm genuinely asking and curious, as to could there have been more or less on those spots, on both MPO and FPO? That would be my question to the world.
Make a post in our comments.
Yeah, let us know what you think of that
as well.
And
me personally, I could have used a little less of it at GMC, but I felt that MVP was the perfect amount, because it felt like it was exciting enough, and because these players they're more or less playing for a bonus at this point. You get into the Tour Championship, everyone gets paid.
Yeah.
So. And we don't have the payouts yet. That was one of the complaints I heard, was that we talk enough about the Tour Championship, but we don't talk about what they're getting, other than they're getting in. And I understand like that. None of those numbers are probably even known yet, because they're still probably trying to raise funds. They're still doing it. So to say like Hannah Wynn gets in and she we'll just make up a number, $1,000. This is a $1,000 event for her by getting in. Maybe it's 800, maybe it's 200. I have no clue at this point. But that was some of the feedback that I had seen, and I kind of agree with, was it would be really nice to at least have some baseline numbers, even if it's not like, hey, the winner, we don't care about what the winner is going to get at this point. It'd be nice, but it would be really cool if we're going to push this storyline. What are they playing for? Especially these players that probably don't make a ton of cash. This extra $1,000, a chance to win. Again, I say that with Hannah Wynn having zero chance of winning this event, the Pro Tour Championship, and it's not because of her skill; it's because of the strokes gained. When you come in at the bottom, there is virtually a 0% chance you're going to be able to catch the best players with a stroke gain,
10-stroke disadvantage.
with a 10-stroke disadvantage,
right out of the gate.
Correct, but she could move up from the bottom spot.
Sure.
That could be anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200, 1,500. There could be some fluctuation in there, but it is an exciting thing to have them to learn and figure out what that is going to be.
When I think about, and I do think that's so significant because right now, as I'm doing some quick math, as you were just talking about, man, when I'm doing the quick math, it looks like all three of those women, being Ellie Midling, okay, 2.5, Ellie Midling, Stacy Kiefer, and Hannah Wynn, if any of them make it into the Tour Championship, because they're on the bubble, if they make it in, for 2 out of those 3 women, simply making it to the Tour Championship, even if they don't perform well, that still will likely be their biggest paycheck of the year.
Yeah, close to it.
Ellie's going to be the one that will potentially buck the
system. She's got like $1,000, $1,500 win?
No, she's got a $3,800 check that she collected for second at True Bank this year.
That's what it was, yes.
I'm just guessing. Nobody can hold me to this because I really don't know. I'm guessing that making it into the Tour Championship, being in that 20th spot, whoever takes 20th at the Tour Championship at the end of the 4 rounds in Charlotte, will probably get at least $2,000, and it could be $2,000, $3,000, or $4,000. Whatever it's going to be, it's at least going to be $2,000. That would be Hannah's biggest cash of the year. That would be Stacy's biggest cash of the year. That would be Ellie's second biggest cash of the year. So if you're saying, hey, is it significant? It absolutely is.
For them it is, yeah.
It is significant. Unfortunately, as you're saying, Johnny, I don't know. We don't know those exact numbers right now, but if we're even just going off of last year's numbers, the bare minimum that they're going to get is still going to be significant. So,
and that's all I'm saying is that if we're going to push this storyline, I'd love to have a little bit more detail, just a little bit, just to so, because that is a huge story that you could tell me like, oh wow, Hannah Wynn gets in for 2,000. It will be her biggest payout of the year just for qualifying, and then she can maybe move up to win 3,000 or 4, whatever that number could be. I understand like I said, they probably don't have what the winner is going to get, whether it's 40 or 30 or 50. I got no idea. But you would think that they would have to at least somewhat know what those bottom ones are getting already. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I see someone says on here a little bit less at both events. Somebody else said it was just the right amount. It was a good amount and could have been even a little bit more. I'd just be curious. I feel like as long as no one says you absolutely beat it to death and we hated it, then I'm looking for the extremes. If there's no one on the extremes, well, we're never going to settle perfectly on somewhere in the middle, but at least we're somewhere within the range and the ballpark of the discussion of it. I personally, like you, thought we slightly over talked about it at GMC. And then I felt like it was obviously that much more significant because it was the last 4 rounds here. But if we didn't talk about it that much at GMC, it maybe would have been a little bit more new and not as compelling, so maybe that was just the right amount of setup for MVP. I don't know.
I think GMC, to me, it feels like a 4th round, maybe a little bit of a 3rd round kind of talk, but more so 4th round, be like, hey, that they're trying to set themselves up into a position to get, to get these points so the next event really matters, something along those lines. But
final point on that, I'll say,
I'm done.
And if this weekend clearly proved it, and when you want to go out and head over to Statmando or go to the Pro Tour page, what we learn is after 10 or 20 or 22 or 26 or 13, whatever the amount of events played by any given player, every single point matters. And that was a tagline.
To some people.
Well, yeah, but that was a tagline that was started a couple years ago.
By Steve Dodge.
And it proved to be 100% true. At one point, you could even look at where the standings were. On both MPO and FPO, there's some of these positionings that came down to fractions of points.
Which
and
literally
the scenario,
could be a putt.
Yeah.
One putt on one round, one spit putt on one round, anything like that could have moved them up one position, which would have given them 2 more points, which would have secured them. There are so many.
Could have been a bigger overall bonus check for finishing where they did. At one point, we were down to fractions or just a few points between Kristen and Missy for the points title this year. Depending on how that was going to shake out. If Kristen would have won the event, she would have in fact been the points title winner. Obviously, Missy winning the event, she was the points title winner.
Holland Hanley had a chance.
Holland Hanley had to finish.
Depending on where,
Yeah, if Holland Hanley had to finish in third, if Missy won, and she still would have then become the points title winner. But because Holland finished in 6th by herself, it wasn't enough. But coming into last week and this week, she was the points title leader. So it did matter, and for all of those reasons, it was very exciting. Ed is saying Niklas just inched out Kelvin for 3rd place, less than 2 points. So exactly, which is clearly significant for a number of reasons to a number of different people. So anyway, all right.
Yeah, because that's literally the difference of a stroke at the Pro Tour finale.
Yeah, which you could argue, well, that's less significant. There's just the pride and the other things that go along with it, in addition to the potential actual stroke at the next event, which is funny because we all know, somebody with a Niklas could hit first available, go out of bounds, and on his very first hole and lose 2 strokes to damn near everyone.
And there goes your.
And then you think, I worked all year, damn it, and on my second shot of the tournament, I give them away or whatever. So
you're happy you have one to give away. Then I guess
that is
another way to look at it. All right, let's talk about our FPO scores. Missy Gannon, as we talked about, wins this in kind of dramatic fashion. Not gonna lie.
Oh yeah.
Over Kristen Tatar. Kristen, on the final round, hole 17, Missy Gannon jams a phenomenal putt. Was it 40 feet? 41 feet.
Depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
Or if you're using a rangefinder or not.
Yeah. Jam for the birdie.
Yeah.
Kristen has a problem with hole 17. We saw it last year. We saw it this year. Just in the worst timing, she has an issue with hole 17. She takes a bogey, so Missy gains 2 strokes on her there to basically tie it up going into the final hole, where Missy is able to get onto the green in 3 technically, to give herself a putt, while Kristen Tatar puts herself in what could arguably be perfect position and then just yanks the approach. A relatively stock forehand for her. She messed it up and ultimately takes a double bogey 6. Missy Gannon with the par takes the win, and with that, as we saw, the points title. So an amazing finish. Missy Gannon just phenomenal. Went ham that last round, so to speak. Shooting 7 under, a 1038 rated final round. It was so much fun to watch.
I can't add anything onto that. It was electrifying in the booth for both FPO and then MPO. And I jokingly had said as we opened MPO, like, hey, is there any way we get as much of a battle? And we obviously ultimately had it, but you just couldn't ask for anything more. And I think that we're in a good spot in watching the competition as it continues to unfold. There's a storyline with every single one of the top 10 women at this event in particular, but just even the bigger picture. their overall storylines, whether it's Kristen being the number 1 player in the world, Missy having the season that she's had, Owen continues to be this ageless wonder, as we say, and is right there pushing week in and week out, occasionally snatching a win, skipping a major last weekend to go be at Vermont, where she's still whooping up on women half her age. Watching Paige charge back, the fact that we had both Paige and Paul at some point making significant charges. Of course, if you're a little more old school or that's what you've been used to, that they showed back up this weekend. Ella Hansen and what she continues to do, and then seeing Ella and Holland and just the friendships, but yet the competitiveness and seeing them on top, so on and so forth. It just goes on and on. Obviously, Raven Klein having an all-around incredible weekend, getting
just
herself
a great
to where
second half of the season.
Yeah, getting herself to where she was, but then maintaining, sometimes getting under those really bright lights and those high pressure pack situations. You see people fall back. Yeah, we could go on and on, but they're all crazy and interesting to see. Congrats, of course, Missy Gannon. What a hard-fought battle. And, we kind of, there is a little parallel to looking at, in a different way, a little bit of a parallel looking at Missy specifically holding off Kristen, getting past her, and keeping Kristen from winning at Maple Hill.
Yeah, her third straight second place, Kristen? Fourth straight second place. Damn it. And it's kind of funny that Missy Gannon was able to get on the island with a forehand. A throw Missy doesn't necessarily count on the course as much as Kristen Tatar does. Like, correct. She's getting better at it. She's getting more confident in it, clearly, or she wouldn't have pulled it out, but she has never been known as a significant forehand player.
Yeah, and stepping up, and to me, that's such incredible confidence and, just everything. Real quick, I did see this, and I thought it was worth reading. Kristen, of course, coming back and doing what she did in Green Mountain, and then to see her make a post that said, "Once again, I was close to a victory, but it slipped away with my miscalculation on the approach shot on hole 18. To be honest, I feel like my short game was lacking the entire round, and unfortunately it cost me at the end. Like I said after GMC, that being close to a big win and seeing it get away from you is heartbreaking to any athlete. I'm no different." So just the tell of one weekend, she's the chaser that gets past. This weekend, she's being chased and gets past. And that's why we're so into sports and we're so into all of these athletes and the stories that they provide us. Just incredible. So congrats to Missy Gannon on not only this victory, but then also the Tour Points champion as well, which clearly speaks to a consistency, a grit, a determination, and everything that she's proven here in the season. And now the big money's,
more big money.
The big money is coming out of the bank and about to get placed on the table. Is big money Missy going to go up and snatch it away? Because history would tell you she is. She's ready.
At Throw Pink, you're talking?
Not just there, but there and the Tour Championship.
Oh, the Tour Championship?
Just generally speaking.
Yeah, that's so tough. It's so tough to say. I mean, she's got such a good record there. But I want your opinion. And I already have mine, and I'm right.
Okay.
So, hole 18 is now a bad hole for FPO. It's just a bad hole. It's not good for the FPO division.
Why?
In the spot it's at.
Because now they can't go for the green?
It's like you have no choice. Like, there is no choice to go for the green on your second shot. Like, was one birdie that final round. I think there was probably 8% birdies the entire weekend, maybe less than that. Maybe it's, well, I could probably look at the core stats on each round. Final round, a sliver, if I hover over 3%, which is one birdie. Round 3, 6%. It should be two birdies, or 5%, 2 birdies. So you're talking like 1 or 2 birdies around. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just not a good hole. I think they maybe could go back to the other tee pad off to the right, and maybe that would make it bad. I'm sure Steve's going to look at this and kind of do it, but there just there's no incentive to go for that green on the second shot for any of the FPO. And so I think that it's just a bad distance. They need to be about 50 feet closer, or in order to at least make it a thought. Because right now, every single one of them practically lays up. Just because it's such a difficult shot that it takes any decision-making out of the game. All right, throw it, lay up, try to get the green. Now, again, going from that layup to hitting the green, we've seen isn't an easy shot, but it's always a chip shot. Always a chip shot. There's never an attack at that hole in the FPO field, and I think something should be done to that hole to at least make it tempting, even if, like, just need a few more attempts at it. I wish they could just get 50 or 30 feet closer on that hole, just so some of the players think, well, maybe I could go at it. Because I think I saw first round, maybe Anakin, who's a lefty, got it. Ella Hansen, who's got a crush. And there was one other crusher who got it. It just, unfortunately, I don't think the hole sets up very well for FPO for the final, or not even for the final round, but as the final hole. I hope Steve looks at it and does something about that particular hole.
Yeah,
it's great for MPO. It's phenomenal.
Which is interesting because the hole is, I'm going to say just 558 feet.
But it's uphill from the, do they play?
Yeah, it's relatively flat.
Relatively flat.
From where they're at. I mean, there's a slight uphill grade to it, but if you throw 300, that's leaving you 238 to the pin, which
258.
Oh yeah, thank you. Sorry, I don't know where I was thinking.
Yeah.
3,
but a 258 foot forehand is very difficult for women, and a 258 foot turnover to that tiny spot, virtually.
That's if you only throw 300. Let's just say,
which is why Ella and some of the bigger arms were able to get up there and give yourself a
yeah. Let's say you throw 358, then you're exactly at 200 to the pin. Yeah.
One birdie on hole round 2 and
zero
birdies on round 1. So
a handful of birdies on the entire weekend.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
It just so many fours. And which is fine. Maybe it's a par 5. Like, if you want to look at it like it's a par 5, that's fine. But I just think that if you're not attacking, Holland Hanley, she got it on the second round. Yeah, I looked at this earlier. I think Ella got it third round or something. Ella Hansen got it third round. I was right there. Anakin got it third round. And I mean, Anakin isn't a short arm by any means, but she also has the advantage of throwing lefty. So it's just something I feel like maybe needs to be tweaked with that hole somewhere.
Johnny with the hot sauce fire take. I like it. I mean, knowing that Steve's clearly a course designer, but also a numbers guy.
Yep.
That absolutely, if it didn't jump off the page at him, you just brought it to his attention.
I hope I just brought it to his attention. Yeah.
So Steve.
And again, maybe it's just,
maybe they go back to the old short. If you go back to the old short tee, which is up and to the left, and there's probably, maybe there's some or it's another tee that's already out there. I don't know if that's a yellow or a white tee that's over there. But go back to an older tee where they could push it more, but then it feels like it's always going to be a 3. You throw it to the edge, you throw it over. It's like you don't want them to get too close either.
Correct.
So that it's just stock, like it's obvious. Oh, I'm going to throw it 300.
That's why I feel like we're like 30 feet short of where we need to be. Like, if we could get 30 more feet, I feel like that would entice women to throw at the green and still have an opportunity to be like, nope, I'm going to choose to lay this up. Because, again, right now, there's almost no choice. It's just throw, lay up, attack the green. So
yeah. No, anyway, fair enough.
Just my hot take for hole 18, because it's so good. It's so good for MPO.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Of course, the Matty O ace, that goes without saying, was, I believe, made it to number 2 on SportsCenter. I know him and Brian were talking about it. Somebody else told me it was, no. I'm thinking of Alden Harris, who made it to number 6 in Vermont. I heard Matty O was number 2. Paige Pierce, I know it's funny. The internet is funny, as it'll continue to be, but some people were worked up that Paige's ace wasn't filmed. There's a lot of aces that aren't filmed.
Yeah.
And it obviously it's something we've been saying since we brought cameras to the course, which is
she got? No.
she got hole 15, which is sometimes you're on a card that doesn't have a camera on it, and largely that's more actually, often than not that's your fault.
Well, more often than not, cards don't have cameras on them.
Yeah,
and we're lucky if we get I'm a little surprised that we didn't get some cell phone coverage just because it's Paige. If this was a different player.
About acing, you're not. Nobody's
no, just in general. Like people just film all the time,
15.
and Paige has cameras on her a lot, or
sure.
Whatever. Just I'm a little, like I said, just slightly surprised that there was no footage of it.
I'm not on that particular hole.
Still,
largely because it's difficult enough for them to throw the hole, let alone to get anything that's worthwhile in terms of filming that hole.
It wouldn't. You're right. It wouldn't be a good film from that hole. Like it would be you showing the disc disappearing, and then everyone would be like, "Did that just go in?" Like that's kind of how it would be.
Now, if she aced hole 5 and nobody got it, we'll say from the green, that would be more surprising. Or
sure.
There's some holes where it's like, oh, you're going to film this. Yeah, of course, that makes sense.
Yep.
But somebody not filming 15 also doesn't surprise me whatsoever. I know I wouldn't bother getting my phone out and filming that one if I were walking along. So anyway, congrats to her on the ace, of course.
My other hot take?
Uh-oh. You've got 2?
I guess. I just thought of this one. I don't like the new hole 7. I liked the old hole 7 better. I understand why they changed it. I think, what was that?
I didn't.
I think it's a better hole, the old hole 7. But the new hole 7, I don't like the shot. I hope they tweak it. I hope they find something a little bit better for that. It just, there's something, it doesn't feel right yet.
That's because it's new.
I understand that.
Because at first I thought the same. And I'm like, no, I'm just saying this because it's new.
No, I just don't feel like it has much character. Like there's just, like the old hole 7, it had character. You're shooting down the road. It's off to the right. It's, you could basically say the road hole. Everyone knew what you were talking about. There was a name practically. There was character for that hole. This new hole 7 just doesn't have that. And it's not because it's new. It's because there's no character to the hole. There's nothing significant. There's nothing special about the hole at all. It feels like a connector hole now. Like, oh, all right, I'm going to throw straight and kind of hyzer out, or me a little this way. It just, I feel like there needs to be either some landscaping done to the hole, or maybe just a slightly different position, just to make something unique. And I understand it's the first year, so there could be bigger plans for that hole that they just haven't gotten to yet. I don't know. I just feel like there needs to be a little something to it.
How about this? I have an idea already.
Okay, Terry.
About 30-ish to, we'll say 40 feet up in the air, they run some form of like ropes course, not quite zip lining, but an opportunity for people to be able to spectate from above the hole.
That could be really cool. Like that would be
because
unique.
Nobody's throwing it up that high. Yeah. Nobody's using that airspace. And that would give them a chance to just kind of look down. And I just think of some of the trees that line the fairway.
Like a plexiglass platform everyone can stand on so you can look down. Because I don't want people to be able to drop things on my players.
I don't know. I was thinking like you're harnessed in, like you're on a zip line.
Ooh, okay.
You're on some kind of zip line, but you have some way you're capable.
How about the old tree seats that we used to have on hole 9 where you had to crawl up there to film?
Something like that. Yeah.
No, I think that it just needs a little something yet. It's just not defined. It feels bland. And I hope they find a way to do that.
Now, if my geography is right,
okay,
there is probably some concern that off to the right of 7 is where you start pulling in 16. Not 16, 15. Am I looking? Let me see if I can find a map. Yes. 7 and 15. There would be a concern. Like you go too far right at the end of 7, you're in 15's fairway, and then vice versa. They kind of parallel each other for a quarter or a third of those two fairways. So that's something that comes in mind. And then, as we heard, the road obviously is. I
love that idea. I love the road for the spectators. And like James was saying, maybe some sort of rope that lines the road, and maybe there was and I didn't see it, but so people can't kind of filter into the fairway a little bit, but just keep them away. I love the idea of the road because it's elevated and the players are kind of down a little bit. Just
it needs a little something.
Je ne sais quoi.
Okay, so
trying to class it up here, Terry.
Here's what, and I almost said this while James was saying it, and this is just a PSA for all tournaments of all times for the rest of life, because I watched this happen at Maple Hill a decade ago, and it's going to continue to happen forever. Every single tournament director, tell all of them, remind all of them, put this on your checklist. Inside every single porta potty door, on the door, on the inside of it, tape a piece of paper that says, "Please close door quietly." And I say that because when I was at Maple Hill a decade ago, and they put 10 or 20 more porta potties than I've ever seen at a course before, they put them near the start, kind of to the start of hole 1, short and to the right. It's a little closer to the FPO than the MPOT or whatever. And they were all there, which, like, he had to have set a record for most porta potties at an event because he needed them, because he was pushing the envelope in terms of spectators. So I appreciate it. They're just, we all know, like, porta potty doors by nature are very spring loaded.
Oh yeah, everyone's walked out of one
whack, now, like, so hard. And some tournament may have been there one year. They just taped up just a little Google Doc that's just one little sign. Heck, maybe
you put one on the front and the back.
I was going to say, you don't want to laminate them because you don't necessarily want to recycle them year after year. But take a piece of paper that just says, "Please close door quietly," or "Please don't let door slam," whatever. And hopefully I just, by habit now, every porta potty I visit anywhere, even if it's not on a disc golf course, I just have this thing of, like, not letting it slam so violently.
Oh, I
like
slam it and then shake the porta potty for the person inside, the next person inside.
I just know how loud and disruptive that can be. So there's my whiny pro tip.
Here's my Billy Mays. There's gotta be, you would think there's gotta be something maybe created that's spring loaded and soft, so when you open the door, it falls. So even when you try to close it, like, it soft closes. That the person has to, like, maybe lift it up so the door can close. So that even if you do forget that, you've locked the door, you walk out, that thing falls down when it comes and slam.
I get it. Do you? But so the question is.
But I don't know if that really exists.
Do you want those installed on the porta potties by the porta potty company, or are you saying a tournament director should have this?
I would hope that the porta potty company would have something like that.
No, because I don't think they care. And to be fair,
they don't. But,
I think
but it could be
99
something.
cases
Could be
where
something we invent.
99 cases where porta potties are installed. I think of concerts, fairs, when that thing slams shut, nobody cares. And this is such a minor pet peeve of mine.
No, I get that.
But after having porta potties at tournaments for all these years, and we're only seeing more of them get on grounds, which is great.
Yeah.
I would just love to see a reminder note inside every. Maybe I just show up. Maybe I just have a backpack. That's my new job.
So weird,
right? That's all I'm paid for. I'm not even paid. I just show up in every tournament.
Terry, the porta potty guy.
50. I have 50 porta potty printouts, along with some tape that I put inside every single porta potty door that says, "Please don't let the door slam," or please, whatever. And I know sometimes there's maneuvering. I do it with my foot because somebody's going to be like, "I don't want to touch a porta potty door. That's gross. It's already gross being in there." I just got done washing my hands in there, which I don't even fully trust, or use the hand sanitizer or whatever the case may be. So the last thing I want to do is push anything else or touch anything else. I get all of that. That's when I go out. I usually use my foot, my
your back,
shoe to help close it or to soften the closing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
All right, rant over.
Rant over. That's good. All right, a little bit of PDGA news. There is a big change at the PDGA with your memberships and your renewals. You are now going to have the opportunity to opt out of physical. Actually, I think you have to opt in to the physical wares that you get: the magazine, the mini if you want it, the disc, probably the little metal pin that says how many years, the bag tag. You have to go in and you'll have to opt into those now, because the PDGA, rather than raise the membership fees, they've decided to cut the expenses. I believe that Doug Bjerkes put out a video that the PDGA membership your membership fees haven't raised since 2007, 2009 maybe. One of those two. But yeah, so starting this year, you're I think you're automatically opted out. And if you want to opt in, you can opt in, but it's going to cost you extra.
Sure.
So
how can you not love
that.
this? I mean, I know everyone's gonna, wants to get like
No,
all
it's
fired
good.
up, but like, okay, so maybe you don't love it because you're technically getting you are in theory getting a little less for the same price. I do understand that, but one of the biggest complaints that we've heard for years is, I don't care about the magazine. I don't want it. I don't need it. It doesn't matter to me. So now, like you said, rather than raising rates, you got to remember that's the alternative. Rather than raising rates, the fact that you can do this, we'll say somewhat a la carte, I really appreciate it. And I'll be the first to admit, I didn't even read every single detail. I think we may have someone on from the PDGA as early as maybe even next week if we have more questions or need any more clarifications. But I like the idea. They are not raising the prices. And for the most people who said, well, I don't care about the magazine. So then you're really still just pretty much seemingly breaking even. If you didn't care about the magazine and you didn't read it and you didn't think it was valuable or whatever you used to think, and you threw it away or never opened it, well, then this should be really still a win for you.
I give mine to you.
You're not going to get it, and you're paying the exact same price
because you need
because you weren't going to do anything with it anyway. So,
they're called add-ons now. So you can, for USA and Canada, you can go to the PDGA's webpage. Like I said, there's an article called "The PDGA Membership is Evolving." There's a nice video of Doug Bjerkis talking about this, but it's a big change, and hopefully it makes more people happy that that the membership money is not going up.
This is it can be a generic statement. What else hasn't raised prices since 2007?
Hot dogs at Costco, right? Isn't that the whole thing?
I bet you they have.
No, I think literally like that was like one of their big things. Like they wanted to keep their hot dogs at like 99 cents or something.
Do you think
but other than that, nothing.
Do you think in the last 10 or 15 years, those hot dogs have maybe become?
No, I think they're the same hot dogs. No, they're not like shrinkflation. They're literally the same hot dogs from
the ones that were made.
They bought like millions of them and they're still giving them away. It's why they can afford it.
Yeah. Again, if you have questions or want more clarifications, maybe we may have some PDGA rep on to check in with us that and other stuff as early as potentially next week. I like that idea. So, and I also just put a link into the chat just now. And Tim is saying you still get the magazine digital.
Yeah, you can. They still do a digital magazine. So they're saving
even
money.
Even if you're not paying for it. Even if you're not paying for the physical?
Correct. It's still part of your thing. So you still get a digital version. So you can still read the articles, look at the pictures, do whatever you want to do. You can still get a digital. And they've had a digital version of it for a long time. You're just not getting a physical copy. They are going to cut back on the number of physical copies that they print and ship out. So
good call, Darren. Arizona iced teas. That is a very legitimate and great example. Unless you go to the wrong shop that sells them for more, which is always funny because I like to get hot peanuts from Planters. I get the hot peanuts, and it says right on there like 59 cents each or 2 for $1. Or now I think they've raised them to 69 cents each or 2 for $1.09. But then you go up to a register because it's printed right on the package. You go up to the register and they try to charge you more than that, and I'm always like, do I argue about this?
Like, can you do that? It's literally printed on the bag.
It's right here.
Yeah.
And I get those often. So this is a
clearly,
conundrum I'm in often.
An issue for
this
you,
isn't
Terry
a one-time thing. I think about this a lot.
Wow.
So as Tim says, Kroger has raised his Arizona tea. So anyway.
That's basically your PDGA news.
Just for clarity, because I love the internet, I will also just quickly clarify that if you saw my picture.
Yeah, you had a full page ad in the PDGA magazine.
You know whose idea that was?
Mine? That would be awesome if it was mine.
No, it's not yours, and it wasn't mine.
No.
Clearly, I took some shit for it because people are going to internet, and that's fine.
Internet's going to internet.
It is what it is. I, of course, accept that.
You got thick skin.
But I do. Yeah, too thick. That's the problem, right? I will just, I never even bothered replying online to anyone, even though, of course, I saw a post. That was not my idea. I don't like the idea whatsoever. the gentleman whose idea it was admitted to it, but it doesn't do any good. That doesn't take any heat off of me. But some of the agreements that I made with the PDGA and doing some work for them, one of the parts of the compensation plan to compensate me was this barter or in-kind situation of getting an ad. And when I had no other ad assembled and the deadline came, it was someone's idea to just take my picture and put the QR code to my store. I didn't like it. I wish somebody else was there to record it where I said, I don't like that. I'm going to get shit for this. It's a bad idea.
Honestly, you kind of deserve it if you didn't give them a good idea. If you had a few weeks to put together some sort of ad that you knew was going to come out and they wanted it now and you didn't do it, by all means, you're lucky they didn't get a worse one of you, like you coming out of a porta potty, slamming the door, Terry Miller.
Yeah. Well, so just for the record, that was not my idea. It was, in fact, an idea that I shot down, clearly not hard enough.
Nope.
But I did shoot it down, and I do appreciate the kind people that then said nice things, and, of course, plenty of people didn't as well. Again, I expect that. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean I don't have to deal with it. So just letting everyone know that that's the story behind there. If anyone is a Shopify expert, I do have a couple of quick questions, though, because now that's directing everybody to my store. And I do have a few questions within my store setup. And so if you're a Shopify expert, reach out to me because I might have a question or two for you. But that's where it should lead you to. My number one goal of selling anything through that site has been disc golf boxes. As many of you know, my disc in a box, that's my product. And that's one of the things that's on there. Plenty of people go out there and currently use it. And we're trying to draw attention to my disc in a box and that service that I offer and provide. And that product that I offer and provide. That was the real intention. So, or if you want to print it out or
it's already on my bedroom wall.
Rip it out. Yeah. And
weird, but it's better than the bedroom ceiling.
I guess you guys do what you need to do. All right, with that, we're going to close things out for the regular show. We can get into the after show and have some more silly banter and more. We're talking porta potties.
Oh, well, no, we talked about that in the regular show.
No, we got to talk more about them. Now we're talking.
Oh, geez.
We got porta potties, porta johns. I'll be the first to admit, I do love the clever play on what I've seen for porta potty names throughout the years. So if you have one, if your local company is named something clever that references those, I want to hear them in the after show because there's been some clever ones throughout the years. You know, porta johns is such a generic term, right? Porta potty.
Sure. Coming from a guy named John. Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, big shout out to Missy Gannon. Congrats again to her for the Tour Points title and for taking down the MVP Open by OTB. And of course, our headliner, our one and only guest tonight. Just so awesome. James Proctor.
A great human being.
Clearly. Which we all knew before the tournament.
No.
And he's going to continue to be one.
After that,
but now he's a champion.
Great.
Man.
Before that,
the jury was out. Well, James Proctor, as you said, a champion in heart and a champion at the MVP Open. Thank you guys for joining us. We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll have after show fodder and silliness, and who knows where it'll go. But we'll see you then when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV Podcast 526's
After show.
Jumped the show.
I did, Terry. And then you messed up the curtain behind you a little bit.
Did I?
Yeah, you didn't close it all the way. And there's
hold
just
on.
A little bit of unprofessional. I deal with this.
Yes. Yeah, we run a
tight ship here, Terry Miller. Yeah. I don't want people seeing behind the curtain.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm going to put out a little tease real quick because, of course, part of the after show action includes our Patreon giveaways.
Patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. Subscribe, support us, win stuff.
Or don't. But if you do,
no, do.
I think we have to do double giveaway because I was on last week.
Yep.
So with that, I think it's pretty confident saying, and they're not a sponsor of the show. We unfortunately don't sell out like we should. But a couple weeks ago, we had the likes of Tyler Searle, and we were able to give the update as to the Masters Bud Hill tournament. And then Tyler talked about him and his brother in running Soar Disc Golf, and then they also have Soar Snacks, SOAR. And then we happened to also have a conversation about beef jerky. Long story short, I've got beef jerky. And I can attest to this. I have not tried all the flavors yet, but that will change by the end of the week.
Maybe by the end of the show if we're lucky.
Yeah. So last week and this week's winners will be getting their choice of jerky and tell me which flavor you want. I have all their flavors. And this was stuff that I had made the purchase of, and I'm happy to share it with you guys. But so far, I have tried the Korean barbecue beef jerky. I do thoroughly enjoy that. Today, I had the original. I also enjoyed that. I have tried the mango habanero. All right, I enjoyed that. That definitely has some kick to it.
You enjoy the kick?
And what I have not tried yet include the black pepper. So I've got black pepper for you. Smoky barbecue.
That doesn't seem up your alley.
But I'll try it.
I know you will.
And I think there's even one other flavor that I don't have in front of me. So anyway, I have them all. I have all the flavors. And once we pull our winners later tonight, both winners will then have their choice of any of those flavors. And these are coming right out of the stash that I had purchased. But big thank you to Soar Disc Golf. They got them shipped out so that I would have them available for my event. And we've seen Double G jerky. We've seen some other jerkies come along. And I'm happy to report that all of the jerkies I've had by all of the companies I have enjoyed thus far. So I very much appreciate them. And also, as a quick update for anyone that maybe is or isn't keeping track, we made our full contribution that we promised and pledged a couple of weeks ago as well. $150 from our show from SmashBoxxTV has been given to the event as sponsorship. $150 from my channel, The Disc Golf Guy, and $150 from Skip Ace has all been contributed to the Masters at Bud Hill event. We wish all of them the best of luck. Hopefully we can report back with the details once that event is over in a few weeks. But we have officially... The money we pledged has officially been given to the event as sponsorship. So I hope that everyone...
I didn't think that was real.
Yeah, I know. Wish we could just talk a big game. We pledged $5,000. No, it's I've got receipts, as the kids say. I have receipts to prove it, that we're all paid up. And of course, thanks to everyone else that I know stepped up. And I believe everyone else that had pledged during that night or talked about it, Steven Story being one of those as well. Ton of great people stepped up and wanted to continue to support that. So we thank you guys. We thank everyone involved. And that event, I think, is going to be a nice big event with lots of good stuff. So best of luck to them. Porta jerky. Now we're crossing some lines. All right, we don't want to go there. I don't think. Double G jerky is also phenomenal, so I'm not taking anything away. I am curious. I almost texted him today. I want to find out where he's at. I know he had switched up a few things earlier this year. He's been supportive of my efforts. I've been supportive of his as well. The good news is, in our disc golf community, there's enough jerky to go around that everybody can...
There's a lot of jerks in our community.
There's that too. None of these guys are. But
none of them, though.
We do appreciate them. All right. After show, putt for dough. I love it. So we're going to be giving away some jerky tonight. Who doesn't like that? Well, you might not.
I'm-
You'd still eat it.
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't eat if
I
like
would-
free jerky showed up.
Nope. I don't like
Seriously?
jerky. I don't like jerky. It's, to me in general, it's like just like dried hard meat.
Yeah,
Like,
but not all of them are.
I don't in general enjoy things that I like have to like really try to chew on in order to like if it were softer, like we tear it off, like maybe the consistency of like, I don't know, string cheese or something, then maybe. But it's not my jam. But what I would do is I would find someone who would love it and I would give it to
Okay.
them.
Okay.
I have my brother-in-law is a huge fan. He makes his own jerky. I would probably give it to him as a present. And he would love it.
Okay. Tim says I'll take Johnny V's. Well, Johnny V
See?
isn't getting any.
Yeah, I'm not getting it.
But
so.
you.
But if I did, I would give it to you, Tim.
Tim, references or brings up, obviously, I hate to say it goes without saying because I can't imagine saying anything, but we feel terrible for anyone and everyone that is struggling with any of the aftermath of the storms, the hurricane, all the stuff. It's almost, I'll admit, I will woefully admit, ignorantly admit, I don't even know of all of the destruction and where it is all placed. I've been in a somewhat of a bubble of not having regular news on, being out in Bend, and not paying full attention to it. I had some very personal conversations with a couple of people down in Florida just last night. And I know there's destruction and I don't know if chaos is the right word, destruction everywhere, and just the worst possible things happening to people in their houses. Obviously, I know lives have been lost, and I just can't say enough that we wish everyone the best. If there's something we can do, I was racking my brain thinking of this last night of like, what's the most useful and impactful thing we can do, and if it's joining a community effort of some other kind or what is possible, I'm all for hearing it. And I'd love for if anyone has specific things or places or organizations specifically they'd like to point to, please put them in the chat. Like, I'm good with all of that. In a similar sense, I know that there was a massive storm that has also ripped through Chiang Mai, and where we obviously have disc golf ties as well. Nigel Mills, the gentleman that started Koh Samui Disc Golf and started everything on the Samui property, has posted pictures of flooding that's taken place. And we're talking similar results. We're talking 2 feet of water, standing water in people's homes. And then you think of the infrastructure that you find in a place like Thailand, whether it's Chiang Mai or some of the other places, the infrastructure is not nearly as robust as what we have in so many places here. So not that it's a competition of who's got it worse, but it's so disheartening to see that happening over there as well. And I know that some of the disc golfers are banding together. I know Aaron Herman and others are banding together. I specifically and consciously went to a GoFundMe just last night and made some contributions, and I'm going to continue to do what I can, as I know there's flooding and massive challenges taking place over there as well. I hate that we have to, like, some people may even have to decide, well, I can support this effort, but I can't support them all, or whatever the situation is. I hope everyone is well. I have not heard of any other, I keep hearing the course updates. Understandably, that's our disc golf community. There's a lot of course updates taking place, and be patient and help where you can.
Yeah.
If that means going out to help get your course, because you have to assume, or if you don't know this already, parks and recreation and forestry, their number one priority isn't, hey, let's get a disc golf course up and running again. And I don't even mean that in a negative or sarcastic way. Clearly, there's a lot of really crucial things that need to happen when you're talking about power and infrastructure lines and roads and trees. But trees down around a residential community has so much more of a priority than trees down that are in a park. And so if it's you and your club that can band together with permission to have impact at the course, that's probably how you're going to see change and progress happen as quickly as possible. So And if you're one of those skilled people, nobody trusts me with a chainsaw, but if you're one of those skilled people that has some of those tools and resources,
I got a chainsaw.
Yeah,
Nice.
finding a way to get a group of people together, get permission, and then probably get some people together. I'll give a PSA. Every parks department's different. Some may say, hey, we love the idea that you're ready to get 100 people together next Saturday to all go fix up and clean up the course. There might be some
Insurance, logistics.
political, insurance, union. There could be 100 reasons why they do or don't allow that, or have restrictions on certain things. They may say, hey, you can have exactly 2 identified chainsaw operators, and there can't be as much as a skid loader or such and such equipment on site without these other provisions. So don't just assume, hey, I want to help, therefore I should go out and start doing stuff. Make sure you still go through the proper channels, because you don't also want to burn any bridges either. So
Tim brings up a disc golf related point that the Disc Golf Masters Tour finale was moved to Raleigh due to some of the storms. I know our next upcoming event, USDGC, they had limited damage to their course. It felt like a lot of the damage, was to the areas that are closer to the mountains due to a lot of runoff and just the flooding. There were some spots that were obviously, like Asheville was hit extremely hard. Like, it just devastated. So that is kind of where we're at right now. Hopefully, bridges and roads have washed away, is what Buzz Swan was saying. So thankfully, it seems like, I know this is selfish and this is small in the grand scheme of things, but it feels like the USCGC should go on without any issues next week for what we're seeing. So I know, and we've been affected. The USCGC has been affected in the past by these hurricanes we had to cancel a final round due to heavy storms and winds and rains that were causing tree branches and such to fall. So yeah, it's one of those things that this time of year, it's something that you kind of every couple of years we have to deal with it.
Yeah, I'll quickly follow up. There's a post that was just made on the USDGC Facebook today that is showing some of the cleanup that's going to be required. Jeff Panis is out there doing a video. I did not physically watch it, or should I say listen to it, but they're showing right now, or I'm looking at, sorry, but they are showing some of the things that are happening in terms of drainage, in terms of tree removal, trees that were damaged and come down, all that other stuff. They did make a post earlier today stating that some of the holes aren't currently practicable. I want to say, if that's a word, practicable. They can't be practiced, and I think it was 4 or 5 of the holes, and that was as of today. Fast forward to tomorrow or the next day, and I think that some of those are going to be or in the next couple days. But as Johnny just said, it seems as if things should be all ready to go out there by the time that event rolls around. Again, another not 9 days before the event actually starts. So I think they're going to have things all under control. So. Yep. All right. And then, like you said, Callie also having to move it from North Cove, which, if I recall seeing a post from her earlier in the week, the course and or property all but destroyed.
Yeah,
like,
it's
in fact,
virtually
like
gone.
Even a road getting to it had been destroyed. So we wish everybody the best of luck. Did you state exactly where it's going to be held?
Just in Raleigh is all.
Okay, yeah. It's official. Our new venue for the DGMT finale, Rocky Ford / Runaway Rocks, is the official home of our event. It's in Kittrell, North Carolina, about 45 minutes from Raleigh.
Oh, okay.
So Dave Mansfield is the owner of the new venue, has decided to donate part of the greens fees back to North Cove. So all of that stuff is out there. Again, put in Callie McMorrin if you want more information for the Disc Golf Masters Tour stuff. So best of luck. Plenty of tournaments. This happens to be one of the largest one, but plenty of tournaments clearly dealing with some form of cleanup and or postponement or cancellation or whatever, and understandably so. Excuse me. Yes, bridges and roads were washed away. 4 major river flooding, with 3 of them in the highest measured water ever. It's crazy to, of course, see and experience all of this, and then also talk to some people in Florida that we know. and then just be watching these very similar messages come in from over in Chiang Mai and the disc golf community over there. So we wish everyone the best. And if there's something we can do, certainly reach out and let us know. What else have we seen? I didn't talk about it since last week because it happened on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I don't know, some night. I had a really good time. Myself, Nate Sexton, Nate Doss, and Valerie Jenkins, Doss, all went to an improv show in Bend.
I think I saw a picture of you guys celebrating.
And had a really good time with it. And for those that know, I frequent those types of opportunities almost as much as I possibly can. I do it all the time in many different cities. But I have now been to Bend Improv. It's called Bend Institute of Comedy. And they have a couple of different teams that do improv, but it's essentially the same organization. And it was a really good time. And Nate Sexton had said it may have been either the first or possibly only the second time he'd ever really gone to see improv comedy. And I think he had a pretty good time with it. And Nate and Val, I think, have seen it. And my point is they don't go to it nearly as often as I do. But that's the beauty also of improv is it doesn't matter if you go once or go 100 times. You're probably seeing a different show every
unique
single time.
everyone, yeah.
In theory, it's unique. And it was just a really good time. It was so fun to do something a little bit out of the ordinary in Bend during the particular weekend. And coincidentally enough, the next time that this company does another improv night is when I'm there for the the Tour Championship weekend. So I just may be going back now. I don't know if those other three will join or not, but I know I'll be going back. So that should be a really good time. Also, last week was the night before hosting my Flex Start, just for the flex of it. Turned out to be a solid turnout of 48 people.
Nice.
And some players accepting cash for their first time ever and becoming professionals in doing so. And had a really good time with it. So I want to thank everyone in Bend and beyond that came out and participated. I'm actually going to put together a quick little video as I got one of the final cards that went out, and you'll be able to see. I'll probably never video the course again because there's a lot of blind shots, some elevation, some blind shots. Very difficult. It will not be the best camera work you've ever seen. It won't be the worst, but it will not be the best. And that's not because I'm an inexperienced idiot. It's because I was really challenged while trying to do it. So good thing it's one round, little C-tier action, but it'll give you an idea of what the course looks like, and you'll see some good play, which is, I guess, the whole point of it. So thank you to everyone that came out and participated in that. We had a really good time with it. And then also on Saturday night, there was a Fresh Hops Fest taking place over at Crux Brewing. I'm not a big hoppy guy, but it was a really good time. And that's clearly part of why you see so many, not just moving to Bend, but it is such a destination for all the different craft breweries that are there, all sorts of different styles and whatnot, but very hop forward when you're at Bevel, and then also when we were over at this Hop Fest, this Fresh Hop Fest. So if you're into that sort of thing, there's plenty of opportunities when you're out there. So got to take in the town a little bit more, I guess, is the overarching theme here.
You're going back in 3 weeks
already. It feels like I was there for quite some time, but yes, it also to turn around and go back there now in a few weeks for the Tour Championship, and that will effectively, and I think the bigger picture is we're like 8 rounds away
from the end of the season.
From the season kind of sort of almost being unofficially over.
I'm ready. I'm ready for the season to be over.
You won't care about the qualifier series and how it wraps up. The NADGT finale. The other A tiers. But that's what we're going to have pretty soon. I mean,
I'll pay attention to results, but not nearly to what I do, obviously, with the Pro Tour. You know, if there's something exciting, if there's an awesome finish, if one of our top pros loses to some local guy or just crushes a field and shoots a 17 or whatever under, yeah, those are all things we'll pay attention to. I'll keep track of scores on, usually on like a Sunday, I'll kind of pop onto the PDGA page, look at the A tiers, and just browsed like, oh, how's this going? How's this going? How's this going? Whatever. But not nearly to the activeness of what we do now. And like this, it's funny because this weekend I would wake up and I'd basically turn on disc golf. Usually within a half hour or so of waking up, because here disc golf comes on at about 8:30, so I'm usually up between 7:30 and 8 on a weekend. And it was funny because on Sunday I turned on FPO. My mother-in-law was in town visiting, and so she comes up from downstairs. She sits down and I think she expected that we were going to have Sunday Morning from CBS Sunday Morning on, which is usually what we watch in the morning, my wife and I, on Sundays. But because disc golf was on and it was Maple Hill, I had that on, and she sat down, and first thing she sees is Owen Scoggins. And Owen had just jammed a putt. Big smile. And my mother-in-law, she's like, well, she looks really happy. I'm like,
if you only knew.
I know. And then my wife chimes in like she's an expert. She's like, oh, yeah, that's Owen. She's always happy like that. And I was like, really? Huh? And I kind of turned to her, and my wife's like, yeah, you make us watch this enough where I know these things. I'm like, all right, good. Well, you are catching on then. So, yeah, that's, but yeah, as far as the other events, no, we're going to start to talk about contracts, and we're going to start to talk about player movements, and we're going to start to talk about, off-season changes, what's going to happen with the Pro Tour next year. Are they going to, things of that nature? Are we going to see, with it becoming winter, are we going to start seeing layoffs at disc golf manufacturers, disc golf media companies, just whatever? Like, these are all things that we're going to have to now address come the off season. I mean, we're going to have after show stuff, or we'll maybe briefly just skim on election stuff because we've got a presidential election this year. Like, geez, these are things that, things that we're going to talk a little bit more maybe about football with our guests, whoever they may be, things like that we're going to, yeah, those are the things that are all coming up, Terry. And
yeah.
I know you've got a lot of traveling come, early next year, not so much at the end of this year.
Oh, yeah, I got enough this year. Uruguay,
possibly
Guatemala, Mary
like
Sunshine House.
That's one trip, though, the Uruguay, Guatemala.
Yeah. Then Mary Sunshine House, where we do close out or start to close out the Disc Golf Pro Tours. Qualifying,
Q
whatever.
Series.
Q Series, thank you. Q Series.
I don't care about it, but I know it, Terry.
Q Series. Then they're going to have the Q Series finale, which is taking place, which I'm not currently involved with, but we have PLO, we've got Chain Hawk Open, I run another big event. So, yeah, I mean, the weekends, and then, yeah, Cho I mentioned, so Big Arm. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff still going on, but obviously it's not at the Disc Golf Pro Tour scale or level or whatever. So, yeah, like you said, we'll then start the whole conversation about sponsorships and just how different. Just think about like who was locked into a sponsorship 2 years ago and the guaranteed money or the long-term contract, what they got 2 or 3 years ago versus what that same player would get today.
50%. You're getting 50% of what you got 2 years ago.
If even in some cases, probably, right?
Yeah.
Like,
it's just
clearly there has been, and everyone knows this. This isn't a secret. There has clearly been a retraction and a little compressing that's taking place in the overall growth trajectory that we saw, and it's clearly impactful to everybody. So, yeah, I guess we'll see. Jared says the season seemed really short and really long all at the same time. Yeah, there's definitely. Depending on what you're doing, there's pockets of times where it felt really long, and then I am also thinking, really? We're 8 rounds from being done? So yeah, I can certainly understand that sentiment for sure.
No, I'm selfishly just waiting for the season to end because I've got a whole bunch of updates for Skip Ace. I want to get out and do a bunch more trial and error and Q&A on it, and just. But I don't want to do that till after the tour finale because there are some leagues that actually do use the tour finale in theirs. So I've been just holding off, and after the tour finale, I'll probably take the site down for 2 or 3 weeks while I update it, get all of the thing. I just, on a whim, just the other day, I was like, what's really popular in football right now? They're called
touchdowns.
No, well, yeah, depends on what team you are. Guillotine leagues is what they're called. very similar to like your normal league, but at the end of every week, you literally cut one of the people in your league, and all their whole team gets freed up, so other people can grab them. So ultimately,
how do you cut them? It was the
low
worst
score.
performing,
worst performance, and they're cut. So you usually want probably 14 or 15 people in your league, and every week just chop until you're down to like
whoever has the lowest
score gets let go. And so I was like, I wonder if I could do that for us. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, I think I could. So I started modifying some code and making some new functions and this and that. So it's like, I'm going to make that an option for people if they want to try it out. You can say, hey, let's get, and I have to decide whether I want to make it like a one elimination or 2 elimination type event, because a lot of our leagues tend to be smaller, anywhere from 6 to 8 people in leagues. So, which you could run 2 leagues in a year then, or you could have like a 2 elimination where it's like, oh, guess what? Oh, you're on the boat. You got 1 eliminated. We're going to cut you if you get another one, and see how that works. Just playing around with different functions and features, but I can't do much more now until the season's over. But I've done so much. I'm excited. I want to record videos for all of the updates that I made. I'm going to send out a huge email with all the new features, instructional stuff. I've got a lot of off-season stuff I want to do, and some of it I can start to do now, but some of it is it just has to wait. And Buzz Swan says, Guillotine League sounds hard. It's really easy to play. It's hard to win, but I guess every week you make it, it's easier and easier, right? You're going up against less people.
Yeah, you just basically, shouldn't they just rename it to the weakest link?
Harder, yeah. I don't know. Maybe. I was trying to think of a different name for it, because Guillotine League is what they call it in fantasy football. If I could come up with a clever one, and weakest link isn't necessarily the worst one I've heard.
It's not, because links and chains and baskets, and
I was trying to think
the worst performer. So
I was trying to think of like the cut line, or that was the one I came up with.
Yeah.
Like, did you make the cut line? Because that's what we talk about in disc golf quite a bit as well. But weakest link is pretty solid as well. I like that. I could steal that from you, Terry.
Yeah.
Give you no money.
Wait. I do appreciate and I know it's now passed by a little bit, but as usual, a few people did reach out to me and ask if I'd be interested in joining their league. I politely said thanks, but no thanks. I'm no good in any league, because I usually don't. I'd like to say I log in and do the first week. I don't even do that much. So, and no, I am not at all in tune enough with the footballs to know what's going on. So, but I am truly flattered that people have asked me to join, and I give the same stock. I'm an idiot response to everybody. I don't need to mix words at all whatsoever. I am excited just seeing someone post one a moment ago. It's obviously being October 1st. It's Inktober. For those talented and gifted, and maybe not so talented and gifted that are working on theirs, but the talented and gifted, I assume, Tim, if you weren't already peer pressured into it, you should be now. So I want to see yours, Tim. Another one of our disc golfers has just made a post and says it's that time again. So I do love watching everyone's individual posts where they have to do some form of drawing or sketch or whatever every day in October. I certainly appreciate those. So get on them. Tim, are you going to be doing it?
I'm sure he will.
I bet you he is. If so, I love it. Skipping it this year, Tim.
Oh, Tim.
You have 17 minutes, because I think you're Eastern time.
Draw
17 minutes. Get one out. Draw something up. Come on.
You can't tell him what to do.
But I want to see it.
He's done it for the last 4 years. He's skipping it this year.
You build consistency. This is year 5, Tim. That's not even half as many years as the Pro Tour's been around.
No, there's something to be said about knowing when to just not keep going with something.
Like when I get all ticked off because I didn't do the Wordle for a day.
Oh, and then you lose your streak?
And then I lost my streak, which was my then longest one at like 43 days. And then I don't touch it for a month, because I'm just like, and it's so stupid, because nobody cares about your streak at all.
No, nobody.
There's like no honor in that whatsoever.
I think I saw Madison Walker just recently got 1 of 1, and I think I saw her streak of like 1,160 days or something.
Dang.
I was like, whoa, I think that's what it was.
Wow, I'll say that's impressive, clearly.
I tend to do Wordle if I do it right before bed. What wrecks me is like tonight, when we'll end this show at like 11 or 11:30, we'll sit and chit-chat for another half hour. and then I'll go upstairs, clean up before bed, lay down in bed, and I'll open up Wordle, and it'll be the next day's Wordle, and it'll be like, oh, you lost your streak. Almost every week it happens.
There you go.
I don't think about it. Like that's what I do to just decompress. Usually I do the Wordle. I'll do the mini New York Times, which is like just the little cube, and then there's a new one called
I've done Connections or something.
Yeah, something like that.
I was introduced to that this summer and enjoyed it, but then don't keep up with it.
What's it? Strands. I don't do Connections. I do Strands.
Oh, there is a Connection.
There's a Connections though. I have never tried that one.
I've won them all.
So yeah, so I'll usually like kind of do those 3 little puzzles. They'll take me all of about 8 minutes before bed. Put my phone down, roll over, and probably snore.
Probably. Yes. It was yesterday, so I can say it now. Madison got it in 1. And the word yesterday, did you know what it was? That actually prompted me to go do it. Because I was a word that she uses every single day, which obviously I had no idea what it was. But she got it in 1.
I'm sure once you say it, I'll know it because I'm sure I did it. But
cloud.
Oh, I did not do that one.
And that was, I'm guessing that's her go-to word every day. Most people have usually a go-to word every day.
I don't.
I didn't for the longest time either.
I specifically try to do different words. Like it's like almost like a little brain teaser to be like, okay, like what new 5-letter word?
I stopped doing that because I worried that might have been a word.
I don't care.
That word just happened.
I don't care. I don't know enough to like remember what happened, or I don't play enough. Have a long streak. Be like, oh,
because now you're never going to use cloud again.
Yeah. Well,
if you remember.
So now if you're Madison, you get 1 of 1. Do you quit doing it? I'm done.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of going on top.
Like you're just like, okay, cool, because you have to get a new beginning word. You have to do all the scrap. Like to me it's like, I try to do a different word. For a while I was doing the word. I tried to stick with the word chaos for a while, CHAOS, and then I would do like try to think of a word of something related to that day for me.
I've gone that route as well.
Like you said, I accompanied my daughter to the school dance.
You're saying from that day? Okay, I think of
literally from that day.
I think of present day, personal, like what's going on. Yeah. So like anytime in the next 2 months, like voter. Right, sure. Like you trying to think of somewhat in a timely sense.
No, I try to think of my personal day and try to find a word that goes with that day.
Ain't you fancy?
Not really, no, because half the time I can't think of a good one. So.
I mean, what I dislike is how they say certain words are obviously more advantageous than other. Oh yeah, I don't want to play by any. Yeah, I don't want to play by any of those rules.
No.
I purposely buck the system and not use any of those words.
Yeah. A lot of people, like I said, used to use the word adieu because it used almost all of the vowels.
Yeah,
so you can find out which vowel to start with.
All right, I'll share my secret, my go-to starting word. So when this happens someday, it'll be on record. My go-to starting word often is party.
Okay.
It used to be something else that I've already forgotten, but
probably not like statistically a great word.
No, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely.
I don't mind
okay
it, but the Y is what really wrecks you because there's not a lot. You don't do a lot of Y words, but yeah. I mean, I don't care. Like
Speaking of porta potties, okay, maybe not. Who wordles? Is anybody in our group? Did we just have a long conversation when no one in the
everybody's given up Wordle like months ago?
Yeah, I guess.
And I don't. Again, I'm not religious about it, so I don't really care that much.
Here is a streak that is worth mentioning. Local guy, Michael Wright.
He's still doing it, huh?
He is still.
Is he at like 4,000 days?
He is still playing at least, I think it's 18 holes of golf every single day. He wrote yesterday on the Facebooks, shout out to Michael Wright here in Milwaukee, my streak of playing every day turned 11 years old today.
So 365 days times 11. 4,015 plus probably a few leap days.
Yeah.
So probably 4,017.
Well, I don't know if it's a few. At least one.
Every 4 years.
11 years. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking only 4 years.
So,
yeah.
So it could be 3. It could be 2.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm not going to go figure out what that is. But yeah, over 4,015 straight days of.
Are you just think of that, everyone. For 11 years, this gentleman has played at least 18 holes of golf every single day.
Yeah.
And that's in Wisconsin.
Rain, shine, snow, sleet, and anything.
I interviewed him when he was, I want to say it was probably 4 or 5 years ago already.
It was.
I went out because it was like 30 below with wind chill. So I knew he was going out to one of the courses. So I had reached out to him to just double check that he was there. I bundled up. I went out there. And yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Just
Buzz Swan says that's a hell of a commitment. It is. And again, at what point do you quit? Ever? Do you quit like injury maybe, or like just do you get bored with it someday? You know, are you going to be disappointing people when you do quit? Is that why you keep going? Or do you keep going just because you want to keep your streak alive?
Yeah. On January 30th, 2019.
So 4.5 years ago.
That was 1,949 consecutive days of disc golf, even when it's negative 25 below. Yeah, 1949 were his consecutive days back then. It's a little, while I'm here, I'll just link to it in case anybody actually cares. But insane. And I think I've asked this on the show before. Name one other thing you've done every day for 11 years.
Short of bodily functions, nothing.
Yeah, there's literally nothing.
Yeah.
Have you touched your phone every day for 11 years? Is that sadly?
No, not even 11 years, because I don't know if I've had an iPhone for 11 years.
Yeah, it's 2024, 2013. Well, you've had an iPhone since well, they're on 16? You've had one since iPhone 5 or 4 or whatever, however.
I mean, I've probably
Have you touched your phone?
Probably. I'm trying to think if there. I can't imagine a day where I don't pick it up and do something with it.
Maybe not. Certainly not made a call or not necessarily send an email or go on Facebook. I get all that.
Yeah.
But you've touched your phone,
sure,
and utilized it, even if it was just to check the time.
Yeah,
that might be, and outside of waking up, obviously, Tim.
Yeah,
like you said, outside of some bodily functions, not of those that have happened every day, but some have.
Yeah. I can't even say I've eaten every day because I know there's days I've been sick there. I just didn't eat.
I did a 72-hour fast earlier this year. Yeah. So phone and bodily fluids functions.
And maybe not even bodily functions.
Not all of them.
Yeah, maybe not all of them.
It's fair to say you've urinated. I think every person has urinated within a 24-hour period.
Maybe not. Depends how dehydrated you are. I mean, I'm just okay. I probably have.
If we're
like, I'm saying like that's not necessarily true.
God, I want somebody else to chime in and give me an example of something else that they think they've done every single day. We'll say for even the last 10 years.
I don't know.
Anyway, that's a hell of a commitment, as we said. For like to think that he got himself to a disc golf course and threw at least X amount of shots. That's insane.
Is he logging them all too?
I think he's just keeping
track of the.
I think he's keeping track on. Yeah. He's keeping track on UDisc.
UDisc now, okay.
Yeah, because somebody challenged him. Somebody challenged him on when they saw the number. The number got posted, and some people who didn't know him or know his story, understandably from somewhere else in the country, challenged him. And was like, "Yeah, right." And I was like, "No, like that's legit.
It's legit. Dude.
We've got plenty of people that can vouch for it, that see him out there every day."
Jared says, "Did he take a step?"
Took a step, as in have you?
I mean, that there's
there
a
days
good chance
you never got out of your bed for 24 straight hours.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, because that would probably lead to, again, a bodily function. Kiss your spouse? No. No, plenty of people are gone.
Yeah, you
separated for, days, weeks, months at a time. No, I don't think, I think plenty of people would break that.
I mean, it's something you could do for sure, certainly. But there's a lot of times you're away from your spouse for a day or two.
Okay, the Buzz Swan has a very valid one. Said, I bet there's a few people out there praying every day for a decade. That one seems plausible.
Yeah, pretty simple request there.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't know if I have any other stories.
The only thing that I've been doing, a little bit of volleyball, just watching volleyball with my kid. Downloaded the new Legend of Zelda game.
Okay.
Echoes of the Wind. I don't even know how it's called. Just started playing it by an hour into it over the last 2 days. So far so good. I think Hannah Macbeth might like it. She's a Zelda fan.
Okay.
Her and I have had little chats about that in the past. Other than that, I'm trying to think. Not much. I haven't had a chance. Like I said, the Brewers lost their first game today.
And
It's a game of 3 series.
Yep.
So
Okay.
a wild card. Hoping that we can go back to back, but it's not the Brewer way.
Okay.
Yeah. Packers are at the bottom of the division.
After a loss this last weekend because they're 2-2.
They're 2-2. Yep,
Okay.
We lost to the Vikings. Lions.
Vikings are 4-0. Is that the
Vikings
first time in history?
No, God, no. They've
No?
they've gone. They've had really good runs to end up. They just can't end the season. They can start the season. They can't end it. Yeah, Vikings and Lions both look really good. Packers look good, obviously, but the Vikings just looked better. Yeah, I don't know. Not much else, Terry. I don't have too much else. Fantasy football teams are all feeling all right. You know, it's early in the season. So
No major upsets there.
well, I had one team that had Rashid Rice and Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco's out at least probably 8 weeks because his own quarterback ran into his knee and buckled it the wrong way.
Ooh.
Yeah, that'll happen. And then on the same team, Rashid Rice, something happened. Rashid Rice, something happened with his ankle. Yeah. I don't know. They're not sure yet. Knee, Isaiah. Anyway, both those guys are on one team and they're both out, but I'm still doing okay. So deep benches, man. Deep benches.
Yeah.
That's all I can hope for.
You have the best team on paper, you think?
Nope. Nope. Who
One of
knows?
our other friends does.
No, he's 0-4.
Oh, dang.
It's fun to pick on him.
It sounds like it. Because he could probably, get that, not copywritten, what's the word I'm looking, trademarked, I got the best team on paper.
Yeah.
That's a line of his every single year.
Yeah. No, his team is looking a little miserable right now.
Ouch. Okay. Yes, and in other bigger sports news, Pete Rose, it was announced yesterday that Pete Rose passed away.
Dikembe Mutombo passed away yesterday as well.
Yes, so
should
rest in peace to those gentlemen.
Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? I've waffled back and forth over the last few years on it.
I'll be the first to admit I don't know all of the story in terms of the betting and whatnot.
Yeah,
but
he gambled on Reds games.
That he played in.
I believe that he coached in. I don't think when he was a player, but I think he was a coach.
Which one's worse?
I don't know, but maybe he did when he was a player, and I'm not 100% sure. Oh yeah, sorry, I had that backwards. Rashid Rice was taken out by Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean,
Checo hurt his ankle on a weird tackle.
There's so many good arguments both ways, and you don't want to just lean into like the fact that probably everybody's doing it, or not everybody. So many people are doing it, and he happened to be caught. Some people are doing, and to be fair, more people are doing it today than they were doing it then. There are just a million more ways to be discreet about it, right?
Maybe.
Like whether it's your kid or your spouse or your friend or your cousin or your interpreter or whomever is doing it on an app somewhere, and they're just essentially by proxy doing it for you. You got to think it is a million times easier to do it today.
Oh yeah.
So and I'm not then therefore excusing it. I'm just saying it's got to be happening today as well.
It might be by proxy, like having through somebody else. Sure, it's a good chance.
I mean, when not getting too political, I still don't understand how all of our Congress people are eligible to be picking up and dropping stocks left and right either. But again, that's another story. And if it didn't, even if they were completely barred from it or banned from it, we all know it would in some capacity be happening by proxy otherwise, by someone else. Your third cousin, your 10th cousin, or some kid down the street you're hiring.
Yeah, but that's so different because how you can't, unless it's a direct spouse, you can't really pass that money back and forth. Like that, you see that if if so-and-so, while I was in Congress, somehow made $3 million through somebody else, how am I getting that money discreetly? How is someone passing that money to me discreetly without, like, the whole point is to avoid, well, the whole point is to make a bunch of money, but probably then also to avoid taxes. I don't know. I don't buy necessarily that argument as much, but anyway, that's more political stuff.
Yeah. Either way. Either way, it's happening.
Yeah.
One way or another. And again, that could be for a whole other podcast.
It's a whole different podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, then I guess we can call it. We don't really have much else. So we appreciate it. Oh, we got a giveaway to do.
We have 2 giveaways to do,
like
Terry
the OTB
Miller.
shot of the day. Sometimes I forget.
That's okay. Patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV or go to SmashBoxx.TV/weekly giveaways where you can sign up for free for our giveaway. Or the better way is just to go to Patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV and sign up there. Then you're automatically entered in every single week. Terry, we have 120 people eligible for our giveaway tonight. What are we going to do?
Well, let's go with the very first number. They're both getting the same thing in theory, that they're going to have a choice of jerky. And if you don't want the jerky, well, then I'm going to eat it. So that's fine.
Well, you're going to eat some anyway.
Well, yeah, but I'll eat that person's if they don't want it. Yeah, let's just go. The first one gets picked, and then the second one gets picked.
I sorted it by year or date you signed up for Patreon.
Ooh.
So at the very top of our list is Andrew Clausen.
Dang,
And at
Andrew.
the very bottom is Mike. Well, that's not true. Mike's third from the bottom because there were 2 entries into our thing. So they're right below
Andrew,
that.
I was just thinking about you the other day, Andrew. I so much appreciate, obviously, the support here.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Also, the support in helping me with some Disc Golf Guy graphics.
Oh, nice.
10 years ago. 5, 8, 10 years ago. Just thinking about you the other day, yet again. I need new graphics. Yours are 2 or 3 removed by now, but the fact that you made something at the time that was still revolutionary for me, that doesn't go unnoticed or unremembered or doesn't go forgotten. So thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that.
All right, the very first number we generate is 56.
56.
Let me take that away.
I have some options. How is it that one of the few times I've ever in my life worn glasses on the show, also thinking that James always wears glasses,
He wasn't wearing
and then he wasn't wearing glasses tonight.
Maybe he just wears them on the course because he
needs to see his birdies?
Maybe he doesn't like contacts like
Doesn't
me.
he?
And, I don't know. Number 56 is Tim Lucas.
Tim, thank you.
Lucas, thank you very much. Just as a reference, he has been a Smashbox subscriber on Patreon since 2018.
Damn, Tim.
So thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.
I'm going to highlight that name so I don't forget it. And then we will go back to
I got a disc back the other day, and I wasn't happy about it because it was supposed to go to one of you. I'm going to look into it, but somebody's address, something or other, I don't know.
We'll
it
figure it
came
out.
back to me.
We'll figure it out.
It just makes me sad because,
Yeah.
we wasted $550 in trying to ship it once, but that means you also didn't get it, and you should have.
We'll get it figured out.
It was a
All
Patreon winner.
Our next number we'll draw. It'll be the next one.
Okay.
And that is
Number 2.
50.
Okay. Bet you they signed up in 2018.
Probably sign up in 2018.
Maybe
We're going to find out.
2017.
Number 50 is Parker Mason.
Parker Mason.
You signed up in 2018, which a good couple months before that. Parker was the 7th month, which is what,
July versus November.
So
Thank you, Parker.
thank you very much, Parker Mason. You're the proud owner of some beef jerky.
You just got to tell me the flavor, Parker.
Well, I'll send your information to Terry. Terry will ask you guys what
Which
flavor.
jerky we eating here, Parker?
Oh, are you a spicy jerky guy or a not so spicy jerky guy? It's a question.
That's always the question. What kind of jerky are you? You one of the jerky boys? There's a slight chance.
You're going to be on the Jerky Boys?
Somebody should.
Their new CD.
I don't know if anyone's got any direct input here, but I'd be interested to hear it. Do I make a 12-hour layover, 12 to 14-hour layover in Panama City or not? Not Panama City, Florida, but the actual Panama City, Panama. Do I make a 12-hour? There's courses there. I would make it a point to go at least play 9 holes somewhere so I could get the course in.
Make sure that there's one near the...
Yeah, I think that's very possible. And then do I spend the night there and make one night of it so I can get another course and country before going possibly to Guatemala? Those are the questions. So if somebody has feedback and you want to hit me on a social with a private message and let me know if you have any insight, I'm into it. So let me know. Brad, I'll address you quickly since you so desperately beg for attention. Just grow up or we're just going to have to ban you again. So here's a public acknowledgement of me saying that because you're so childish. All right. We'll close it on that note. It sounds like a good one. I know, Johnny. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you to all of the just incredible people that come here weekly, then also the people that I know download and consume it that way. However you listen, watch, take it all in, we very much appreciate you.
We do.
Thank you to our guest from the regular show, James Proctor. I have a feeling we'll continue to talk to him more and more over these next few seasons. This could be opening a pretty big floodgate, but 2 wins on the Pro Tour this year and unlimited potential for that guy coming. And a quick shout out, go watch, if you didn't already, whether it's on DGN or it's on Johnny Disc Golf's channel. It was a really well put together. It was phenomenal. Put together 30-minute piece on James Proctor that was shot last year or the year before, mostly last year. It's a great piece, and I know it's been out for a little while, but I feel like a lot of people are going to seek it out now and be able to even learn more about James Proctor because he is that great of a human and individual. And Johnny Disc Golf, along with Kevin, did just a phenomenal job with that piece. It's from the DGN On Tour series, and it's also on Johnny's channel and on the Disc Golf Network. So go consume that. For Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. Thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox.